Project in
Okay.
progress.
Yes, thank you very much, Andrew. And good morning for this slightly delayed start for the, I guess this is week 41 of the IGU Summit events that we host every Thursday morning here in Toronto. Unfortunately, I had announced that the event would start at 4 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time, GMT. But we did switch our clocks forward 1 hour. So it is actually 3 p.m. GMT start time. So hopefully we will have people not too confused, and we will have our guest speaker as well coming on with us a little bit later. But as always, as we do with these events, I do want to start with a land acknowledgement to begin our day. So we do begin by acknowledging that we walk upon the traditional territories of Indigenous people, and we recognize their history, spirituality, culture, and stewardship of the land. We're grateful to all Indigenous groups for their commitment to protect the land and its resources, and we're committed to reconciliation, partnership, and enhanced understanding. We acknowledge the land we're on. Meeting here in the Greater Toronto Area is the traditional territory of many nations, including the Wendat, the Haudenosaunee, and the Anishinaabe peoples, and is now home to many diverse peoples. We'd also like to acknowledge the land we're on at. Here is at the meeting place of two treaties, the lands of the Mississaugas of the Credit and those of First Nations of the Williams Treaty. We thank them and other Indigenous peoples for sharing this land with us. We also acknowledge and recognize all of the world's Indigenous peoples as stewards of Mother Earth. So with that, I wished to share my screen. Just give me a second here. Start the presentation. Share the screen so that we can begin. Just if somebody would let me know if we can start, they see this. So hopefully everybody can see the screen as it is now. As always, I do indicate the events coming up. I had mentioned them last week, but I will mention them again. Coming up on Sunday, March 20th, is the International Day of Happiness. So again, this International Day of Happiness was established by the UN General Assembly in 2012. It aims to make people around the world realize the importance of happiness within their lives. So I had also mentioned that coming Monday, March 21st, is a very busy day because it is the beginning of the week of solidarity with the people struggling against racism and racial discrimination, which takes place from March 21st to 27th. So this week of solidarity with people struggling against racism and racial discrimination was declared by the UN in 1979. The week celebrates the importance for communities and nations to strive toward racial equality and tolerance. As well, March 21st is the International Day for the Elimination of Racial Discrimination. So that day, the UN proclaimed for the elimination of racial discrimination back in 1966. So every year, March 21st is recognized as this day where the international community can come together in an effort to eliminate all forms of racial discrimination. Again, I am putting these links in the chat. So as well, March 21st is World Poetry Day, which is an occasion to honor poets, revive oral traditions of poetry recitals, promote the reading, writing, and teaching of poetry and foster the convergence between poetry and other arts such as theater, dance, music, painting, and raise the visibility of poetry in the media. And also March 21st is as well the International Day of Forests, with the UN proclaiming this back in 2012, with the day celebrating and raising awareness of the importance of all types of forest, which with each year events celebrating and raising awareness of the importance of forests and trees outside of forests for the benefit of current and future generations. So Monday, March 21st will also be our first Tea Diplomacy Initiative global virtual event. But again, I will tell you more about that later. I have added some additional slides to our event this week. But as always, I do start the presentation by giving recognition to our supporters and sponsors, in particular Andrew Networks, which has replaced EDFU Foundation, our primary sponsor prior. The Global Unity Network weekly Thursday Zoom calls now have Andrew Networks rebroadcasting these production-ready episodes on AHIABGA.org domain, redirected to the UCIT-TV site. The logo also indicates this as 2123 Summit. We do plan to continue delivering these every Thursday event until the end of 2023, again in alignment with the UN Global Compact 2021 to 23 vision and strategy. Again, in the chat, more information about AHIABGA World TV, UCIT TV site, and the UN Global Compact strategy. Logos on this page, you will notice Maui Aloha Project, 5 Points Youth Foundation, Ad Hoc International Advisory Board, a Goodwill Ambassadors logo, Future Look Foundation, Global Peace Let's Talk, American International Education Federation, EDFU Foundation, Conservancy Trust, Saga Foundation, LA Global Foundation, and our own logos for the Tree of Peace and Reconciliation, the Greater Unity Network, the Indigenous Unity Flag, the 4K Clubs, the HEPTA Matrix Partnership Template, the Global Unity Business Group, and a number of other ones as well. Important, I will put some of these links into the chat for everybody to connect and find out more information about these various organizations. But importantly, again, Andrew Networks is our primary sponsor supporting the promotional ecosystem for the Global Unity Network Initiative, which continues again through to December 2023. It is Andrew Networks that donates our hosting and promotional support services. So Andrew Networks is a brand and domain name owned by Parks DC Export Trading Company, comprising the various social media channels, including TRN TV, Universal Citizens Media Network, Conversations with Andrew Lloyd Jr., and a number of other ones as well. Again, some links to all of these organizations. Andrew did found the Ad Hoc International Advisory Board of Goodwill Ambassadors, Advocates, and Activists back in September 2019. Our focus is on localizing Sustainable Development Goals during this decade of action and delivery on the SDGs, so 2020-2030. Andrew did appoint me as Ad Hoc International Advisory Board Representative for Canada, La Francophonie, Commonwealth of Nations countries, originally January 2020, later appointing me as representative for Turtle Island in early 2021. Again, the link for the ambassadors can be found in the chat. So who am I? I am Lloyd Halferty, the CED, or Chief Ecosystem Director, Program Development Director, and Sustainable Society Consultant for Energy University, headquartered in Manhattan. I am located in the city of Markham, in the Greater Toronto area in Southern Ontario. However, here in Canada, But Energyme University is a private 501(c) nonprofit company in New York City. They are a member of the UN Global Compact, UN Academic Impact member and partner. They are a virtual university created to support and empower global populations to reestablish a sustainable balance with local environments. Energyme does this by designing and implementing projects that support a strong and diversified local economy while integrating core sustainable technologies and infrastructure into local communities in the areas of renewable energy, high-density food growth, along with systems for sustainably managing local waste streams and protecting local water resources. Energyme is supported by over 375 companies whose products and technologies we employ. Energyme University does also support education and training in the construction, deployment, and maintenance of all the various integrated solutions for achieving closed-loop systems that support self-sufficient, sustainable communities. So, again, my information is in the chat. So, I want to mention the Energyme Global Corporation, Turtle Island, of which I am the co-founder and administrator of this international civil society organization that's seeking to undertake what we call life value peace education done in the context of life learning gardens. Again, that is the link that you see on the screen. So I was also designated as well Goodwill Ambassador for the 5 Points Youth Foundation Los Angeles, portfolio covering Canada, Latin-America, the Commonwealth of Nations, and Turtle Island communities. As a member of the AHIABGA International Advisory Board of Goodwill Ambassadors, we are seeking to empower our communities to engage with royal, Indigenous, and tribal leadership, as well as helping local communities establish interfaith neighborhood academic and business collaboratives, or INABCs, that help come together, pledge to support all of the local humanitarian entrepreneurs who are globalizing the global goals, starting with the Sustainable Development Goals, while we seek ways to leave no one behind. Again, you can connect with the AHIABGA International Advisory Board of Goodwill Ambassadors through the links in the chat. So I am co-founder of the Global Unity Business Group. Came together as a coalition of small businesses in order to establish, manage, and grow our Global Unity Network. The Global Unity Business Group, a humanitarian enterprise, global sustainable and regenerative development corporation supporting and promoting the local delivery of what we call open source regenerative climate smart infrastructure set up as life learning gardens, along with the hybrid virtual learning platform we call a VCN, or the Interchange for Peace. The Global Unity Business Group created in order to formalize the AHIABGA International Advisory Board of Goodwill Ambassador process of localization of the global goals, starting with the SDGs, which is being done by the establishment of this Global Unity Network, which includes Unity Gardens and Unity Learning Network, along with other dedicated Unity networks, all being important components of our called network of networks. So it's important to note the existing social media, WhatsApp, Facebook, and LinkedIn groups we're using right now, used as a placeholder as we build our global network, prepare to launch, eventually get all of the people, companies, and nodes of the network onto this, what we call Interchange for Peace, VCN. They'll be able to gain access to the many tools and services that are available there, where we can more easily collaborate with each other to locally implement all of the globally coordinated real-world events, projects, enterprises, and infrastructure. Again, I will put in links to our social media into the chat. So the Global Unity Network was created to showcase global cooperation for the implementation of the local regenerative solutions for achieving the global goals, starting with the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, or the SDGs. So our goal is to help uplift the traditionally marginalized communities that are mostly being left behind because the existing economic paradigm is focused on making money for those who are already wealthy by extracting resources through the exploitation, overexploitation often of people and the natural world, and therefore the majority of people on Earth are being ignored by our existing highly competitive economy. So our focus is on the billions of people who exist or subsist on the economic sidelines, where we intend to support our work by helping local communities deliver the regenerative local enterprise solutions that people and communities in some of the least developed countries, communities, and local economies require in order to survive and thrive. So the entry point, we are focused in particular on those communities that are most food insecure. So again, the Global Unity Network can be found at the link in the chat. So Global Unity Network is promoting delivery of a suite of practical solutions to achieving the global goals, starting with the Sustainable Development Goals during this SDG period until 2030. We are focused on using the tools of one, humanitarian entrepreneurship, focusing on female and feminist humanitarian entrepreneurs and enterprises, or FFAG, and using two, hybrid virtual and hands-on education and training and learning programs, platforms, and curricula, with a primary focus on delivery of the various humanitarian entrepreneurship skills training in practical settings, so practical learning. Along with three, the leveraging of various open source regenerative climate smart infrastructure solutions to remotely assist local INABC teams to establish the local collaborative open source Unity Garden classrooms in all of the local communities around the world. So the Unity Garden classrooms are set up in collaboration with existing schools in local communities that can be used for the local and remote and virtual delivery of the practical learning programs for all of our FFHE members, so they can learn how to grow, process, cook, market, sell, and trade the various types of regenerative climate smart food and related nutritional and medicinal and other types of locally produced regenerative products within their own local communities, as well as regionally, nationally, continentally, and even internationally, in order to produce income and therefore greater prosperity for themselves and their people in their local communities, essentially for all people in all continents, with the intention and goal, of course, of leaving no one behind. I put into the chat Unity Smart Cities Network. We also promote through the virtual social marketing all of the members of our network. We use all of the various practical social media, networking, and trade tools, including of the modern Fourth Industrial Revolution, combining the wisdom of the crowds with the deep Indigenous knowledge of our ancestors and the living Indigenous people of this earth, in order to learn from each other how to share the abundance of this planet, in order to create productive, regenerative, climate smart landscapes wherever we may live, in and around each and all of our local communities. Our intention being to help restore nature and biodiversity, to ensure abundance for all, and ultimately restore the human connection to Mother Earth as proper stewards of our one beautiful planet. And in the chat are some links that are relevant to this slide. So the Ad Hoc International Advisory Board of Goodwill Ambassador process of localization of the global goals is intended to help everyone at each of their own local communities to establish these local teams of humanitarian entrepreneurs, as well as the local community support networks, these INABCs, that provide support and ensure the success of the local cooperative humanitarian enterprises. Starting with the Unity Gardens, will be home. We'll start with the established in each local community across our global network, most likely starting in Africa, but also here in North America and possibly also in Asia as well. So the process of establishing the local INABCs is done by taking part in our Abraham project, the Tree of Peace and Reconciliation tree planting ceremonies. We plan to do on World Environment Day, June 5th, where some communities will establish twin trees of peace and reconciliation, or twin unity gardens, and will be done through the CTP program process of twinning local community unity garden humanitarian enterprises, and also twinning the local community INAB collaboratives. So what we are building here is a global network of local INAB collaboratives, or INABCs, where all the members of each local INABC will be interconnected, watching over and talking to each other at the global level, where each local INABC will have a diverse set of members from the 7 different sectors of every community: public, private, civil society, academic, interfaith, finance, and orange economy, or the creative sector. We'll also be watching and promoting and helping each other and supporting the local female entrepreneurs in each local community, who will be empowered by all of the members of the global network, where all the activities are also intended to be transparent. All of the global network members of the local INABCs will also be accountable to and for the success of the local collaborative community garden humanitarian enterprise. But this means really that if the local female and feminist humanitarian entrepreneurs who are living in the local communities fail to be successful as they build and run their local collaborative or cooperative community unity garden humanitarian enterprise, that local business that's provided they're fully dedicated to making it successful for all of the members of the community, especially for those that are most marginalized in each of their own local communities, will not be entirely on their shoulders alone, barring some unforeseen circumstances, of course, as the insurance industry likes to say, acts of God, but rather such failure could also at least partly be blamed on the local community INABC members for not having lived up to their obligations to support and empower the local community humanitarian entrepreneurs who are building, operating, maintaining, and delivering the various community programs, events, interventions, goods, and services that will be delivered in the context of their local community unity garden humanitarian enterprise. I am suggesting as well that a community unity garden humanitarian enterprise should also be established as a cooperative enterprise or business, where the idea is to set up the local community business as a co-op, so that the burden of running the business isn't entirely on the shoulders of a single entrepreneur, although different business models can be tried to determine what might actually work best. Again, in the chat is some information about cooperative enterprises. So I will go on. There are two more slides. I wanted to mention as well our tea diplomacy initiative. This slide had been removed previously, but you may recall that I had once suggested that we might wish to consider having a tea diplomacy initiative event during the week of solidarity with the people struggling against racism and racial discrimination, i.e. 21st to 27th of March, which is next week. So in particular, I suggested we begin on Monday, March 21st, 2022, which is actually the International Day for the Elimination of Racial Discrimination. March 21st also happens to be World Poetry Day. The same day, March 21st, is also the International Day of Forests, as I had mentioned at the beginning. So this opened up the possibility for us to plan a virtual tea diplomacy event that would include having conversations related to methods and processes of establishing or enabling and implementing solidarity with the people struggling against racism and racial discrimination, as well as discussing some of the local poets and poetry that have influenced local cultures in each respective community, wherever the participants in these virtual discussions might live, along with discussing the importance of establishing productive forests as biodiverse 3D polyculture food forests, established as victory forests, unity gardens in all of our local communities, managed in partnership with local Indigenous people and all levels of government in every local community and country, and as essential parts of a process of practical reconciliation with all of the Indigenous peoples of the world, one country, one community, and one watershed at a time. So we now organized to have our very first inaugural virtual Tea Diplomacy Initiative event on that day, Monday, March 21st, 2022, starting at 8 a.m. to 9:30 a.m. Eastern Time, Toronto time. So during this virtual tea diplomacy event, we are asking leaders and other high-level decision makers to sit down with us virtually to have a cup of tea with some of our Global Unity Network members at the grassroots who are living in and doing work in the various marginalized communities around the world. So the conversations that we're asking our participants to discuss during our moderated virtual casual conversations between the sustainable development decision makers and professionals and our grassroots members who are doing some of the on-the-ground work in the various local communities in the Global Unity Network will be related to the three themes that I mentioned and are shown on this slide. So the event is being co-hosted by the Global Unity Network, which is building our network on behalf of the Ad Hoc International Advisory Board of Goodwill Ambassadors. The Global Forum for Sustainable Rural Development is another primary sponsor, co-host, along with Global Peace Let's Talk, which you'll see all the logos. So of course, the Ad Hoc International Advisory Board of Goodwill Ambassadors and activists are the main feature. So I will put in some links into the chat, quite a few links to the information about the events, including the registration for the primary event, along with links to the organizations that are participating that you see on this screen. But I have one more slide to go before we go to our guest speaker, and that is a page with the people who are participating, the organizations that are participating in this Tea Diplomacy Initiative events. So our partners include Andrew Networks, of course, the World Humanitarian Organization for Peace and Equity, WOPE, the Saga Foundation, We Energize Global Cooperation Turtle Island, Drawdown Markham, Climate Change Solutions Education and Training Hub, the Indigenous Global Unity Network, Carbon Shot Earth Sustainable Marketplace for Climate Solutions, the Unity Women and Feminist Network, the Tots and Kids South Africa, JAFOA Uganda, the National Federation of Women Farmers and Appropriate Technology Asia in Nepal, Trilite Foundation Malawi, the Soweto CSI Council of South Africa, Gemma Skaters Youth Development Program, Village Synergy Uganda, the Global Unity Business Group Humanitarian Enterprise, and Global Sustainable and Regenerative Development Corporation, together with the organizations that support and promote this IGU Summit event, including the 5 Points Youth Foundation, EdFood Foundation, the Soul LA Collective, and Cycle of Success. So we now have an event, I think, that is beginning to show how we are able to showcase partnerships for the goals for the implementation of our local solutions to achieving the global goals. And again, I am putting into the chat a number of links to these organizations. All of these links and the logos you see here can also be found on the Eventbrite page. But again, I thought I saw our guest speaker coming into the chat. Jane can, since she is here now, hopefully start her presentation, and I will pause now to allow her to deliver her hopefully very engaging presentation for us. Thank you so much. Jane, are you able to share your screen as well and start presentation? If you could unmute yourself.
Thank you. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon. Are you referring to me, Mr. Lloyd?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, sorry.
Was
It was
I to do a
Juliet.
presentation today?
Yeah,
Sure.
that was Juliet. Sorry,
Sure. It's okay.
I just saw the J.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So we don't have. It looks like we do not have Juliet. No, I was just. It just flashed across my eyes there for a second. It looks like we do not have Juliet on the call at this time. Then, so perhaps then I can continue with my own presentation. So I will share the screen one more time then. And if somebody could let me know if Juliet does come on the call. I see it is now 12:01, and hopefully we will have people coming on the call. In the meantime, I can mention again that Global Unity Network Virtual Collaborative Network is a hybrid learning model delivered through the Unity Gardens for hands-on experiential practical learning, as well as through digital VCN that intends to bundle all of the various functions of individual websites onto a single site or collaborative portal that allows for all of the digital virtual learning to be delivered alongside a place where e-commerce can also take place. So it is what we call a all-in-one platform for trade, commerce, and learning bundled into a single platform. So we interchange for peace VCN using a digital collaborator engine intended to turbocharge the network exchange, trade, and education delivery. And of and for our members of the network, we also call the PXN or Partner Ecosystem or Partner Exchange Network Ecosystem. Digital collaboration technology helps organizations in at least the 6 areas of digital transformation in terms of leadership, digital strategy, customer intimacy, business service design, agile transformation, and doing health check analysis for their organizations. So we do believe that these types of enterprise and business VCN platforms can help every organization, including voluntary and nonprofit organizations, schools, governments, community groups, become agile organizations who will be empowered for the 21st century, helping them move beyond the current health pandemic into a new age of digitally enabled commerce, information, learning, and cultural exchange that ensures a future prosperity for our children and their children. So the VCN is intended to be a stepping stone toward this new vision of the internet called the metaverse, which is, of course, everyone probably has heard now, the renaming of Facebook, and the corporate name Meta, referring to this metaverse concept, starting to be embraced by a younger generation around the world. Chat are links to these concepts of the metaverse. So again, our Global Unity Network business group is managing the network geographically, helping to create our continental, country, and regional Unity Network, or UnityNet local business support networks, to serve to manage the local and community networks. The regional and continental Unity Network organizations organize themselves according to what we call sociocracy, assisting local communities in each country to establish these local and regional community engagement teams. We call the INAB collaboratives or the INABCs, interfaith neighborhood academic and business collaboratives that serve to support the local humanitarian entrepreneurs who are establishing their own humanitarian enterprises, hopefully as community unity gardens. But our primary purpose of both the business and the network is to promote and leverage our ad hoc international advisory board, a process of localization of global goals, which help all of the people in these local communities come together to establish partnerships as per SDG 17 that will support all of the local humanitarian entrepreneurs who are dedicated to implementing various local regenerative community-based enterprise solutions for achieving the global goals, again, starting with the sustainable development goals. Again, in the chat is a link about this concept of sociocracy. So on this slide, I talked about the purpose of the Global Unity Network, the main purpose being to essentially leverage and use this AHIABGA process of localization of goals, specific type of community engagement process, in order to assist local communities to establish and maintain their own local and regional interfaith neighborhood academic and business collaboratives in each local community, according to the multi-stakeholder AHIABGA matrix partnership template. So the partnership between Drawdown Markham, 5 Points Youth Foundation, done through the Re-Energizing Global Cooperation Turtle Island International Civil Society Organization, whose mandate is to deliver life value peace education within the context of Life Learning Gardens, which we call now Unity Gardens, with this framework cooperation created looking at individual projects, not directly, but on the basis of a Global Unity Network established as a global support network to help establish the local support networks of professionals in each local community where the projects are to be implemented to establish the regenerative infrastructure that can be used by the local humanitarian entrepreneurs, the community unity gardens, established by the local female and feminist humanitarian entrepreneurs. So ultimately, the local designs, assessments, operation of the local projects and enterprises, businesses are not done by the people who are remote to the communities and projects. They are done by the trusted people who are living closest to the projects, including the beneficiaries, especially those who are currently the most marginalized in the community, who will be supported by not only the members of their own local INABCs, but ultimately by all of the members of the Global Unity Network. So I put in that some information about localization. So our goals are also, of course, to support and uplift people in marginalized communities through delivery of learning programs, with practical hands-on education training, and to promote all of the youth and the female and feminist humanitarian entrepreneurs around the world who either have or wish to implement these replicable regenerative solutions for achieving the global goals. Again, starting with the SDGs. So we focus on regenerative solutions that can be localized one community at a time, starting in the least developed countries, communities, and economies, working with the people who've been most forgotten and marginalized with the intention of leaving no one behind. I put into the chat some information about a concept called open source hardware. So our philosophy is that machines are not the economy. People doing things is what makes an economy. So if we can uplift and lift people from poverty, or better yet, empower them to lift themselves from poverty, we have automatically, by doing so, injected new life into the global economy. So the goal of the Global Unity Network is uplifting the bottom billions, the ultimate goal being to teach people how to feed themselves the climate smart way, where we think of the old saying of give a man a fish, feed him for a day, teach a man to fish, feed him for a lifetime. The Global Unity Network is about teaching the women especially and youth to fish so they no longer need to be fed the next day when they're hungry again. So we focus on promoting and demonstrating only open source solutions, as in open source regenerative climate smart food growing infrastructure, set up as Unity Garden classrooms at and with schools, including universities, colleges, high schools, and the like. I can also, again, send anyone who wishes to read more a 4-page document that describes the Global Unity Network in more detail but I will put in some essential links to the Unity Gardens network, which is demonstrations of these open source solutions. So one of our key programs is called the CTP program, a collaborative tree planting program, being created in order to help enable local management and adaptation to long-term social, economic, and planetary impacts, to help create legacy forests for people, biodiversity of the planet, to help secure energy and food resources, climate resilience, and poverty alleviation. So we do aim to teach people about how they can implement the various rural and urban holistic sustainability infrastructure that we're promoting, helping to deliver this knowledge to people who are in local communities throughout our network. The learning programs of our network partners delivered using the lens of what we call humanitarian entrepreneurship, education, and training programs, especially for youth educators and decision makers of all kinds. So through our programs, local communities come together to create these INAV collaboratives through the commemorative tree plantings that are part of a 400 and 800 anniversary Tree of Peace and Reconciliation ceremonial initiative, many of which have already taken place in cities and communities around the world since late 2019. So the original Trees of Peace and Reconciliation that were twinned, those tree plantings first took place here in Canada, in Pickering, Ontario, and in Bermuda, were a precursor to the ongoing tree plantings that are part of the social enterprise arrangement with Forest Nation. We plant through the We Energize Global Corporation Turtle Island organization, which is working closely with Plant for the Planet, which intends to plant 1 trillion trees around the world over the next few decades. So again, in the chat is some information about these organizations. Again, we are supporting and working in partnership with Unity programs, local Unity network organizations that have been established, continue to be established around the world that deliver the projects, campaigns, and events, such as, of course, the Tree of Peace and Reconciliation, tree planting ceremonies, the Sunlight Spectacle virtual edutainment shows and events, along with these Indigenous Global Unity Summit series events, which will continue to take place until the end of next year. We do also have coordinated international global fun festivals, and importantly, we are also working in support of the expansion of women's support networks. We want everybody, of course, to participate in our women's and feminist network, as well as Bubble Fund Network, and in support of all of the initiatives that will take place in local communities. So we are also supporting an organization called the Community Pandemic, which I'm putting information into the chat. And here, where we are in the Toronto area, we have our Greater Unity Team, originally called the Greater Unity Pandemic Team, or Victory Pandemic GTA. But we are also supporting a global network as we move on our local activities. So as noted, we are supporting, promoting the local delivery of open source regenerative climate smart infrastructure set up as life learning gardens designed for delivery of this practical learning programs supporting the life value peace education. So these include what we call CSV gardens, victory forests, climate smart kitchens, Spark Learning Centers, or climate smart educational training centers, and Wheel of Life farms and farm schools. Again, also in the chat are links to some of the discussion groups related to these. The projects we do include Sacred Site and Watershed Mapping Project, the CTP program, the Collaborative Tree Planting Program Initiative for twinning communities, along with the collaboration for the development of this system, payments for ecosystem services, or the Certified Climate Smart products that help to sequester carbon that are made by our humanitarian enterprises and entrepreneurs that are helping to implement the global solutions for achieving the global goals, starting with the SDGs. So some of our other key campaigns do include what we call the Dream Boards in Every Community campaign to establish local community dream boards where we help to mobilize the youth and help turn their dreams into reality, along with the Tea to Diplomacy initiative, which I mentioned earlier, that connects the local farmers, growers, and entrepreneurs across geographies and among members of communities that may not otherwise ever get a chance to talk to each other and get to know each other as people. So with this idea to sit down, even if virtually, have tea, relax, and discuss some of the local solutions to global problems like food security, hunger, climate change, the environment, peace, security, and of course the well-being of people and the environments in each of our own local communities. So people who participate would also discuss what kinds of teas they like to drink, what healthy foods they like to eat while drinking the teas, and what unique teas are grown in their own local communities or region, and the importance of these teas to their local people and culture. So again, in the chat, about the CTB program, along with the Tea Diplomacy Initiative. And I'm seeing Susan is now coming onto our chat. So Susan, are you able to do your presentation for us today at this time? Okay, we can now pause.
Not really. I wasn't prepared for any presentation today.
That's Juliet.
Oh, sorry.
Juliet, she's here. Juliet is here.
Juliet, sorry, I just keep looking at Susan. I just keep looking at the chat window.
Okay.
Juliet,
Good evening,
yes,
everyone.
sorry, Juliet.
Yes, no, good evening. We had power cuts just now, so I'm trying to send my presentation through. Andrew, I don't know if it's fine. Do you think Professor Lloyd can continue, or should I don't want to delay. We just got power back.
The great news, Juliet, is that Lloyd has probably another 30 minutes that he could do, but we've already done it in the introduction, so we're waiting for you. You let us know when you're ready, and we can do it now, or you tell us when you're ready.
Oh, okay. All right. So we'll so you'd rather I start rather than Professor Lloyd continue.
Yeah, what we normally do, we had originally opening 10 slides, and then we go to a presenter. I just kept going as we were waiting for
all right. Okay, thank you. Let me send through the presentation. We just got back power now, but we'll be there a minute.
Oh, hopefully it will be stable enough.
Yeah, it should be. Thank you. Yeah, 1 second.
Yeah, our next slide would have been to describe the first continental Unity Network development network. So UnityNet African Diaspora, which of course many of our members here are from that network. It is of course intended to be a space where all of our members right now to have discussions as we develop this global Unity Network, which of course isn't just Africa, but includes a number of other countries worldwide.
Lloyd, you'll have to share your screen again. I stopped sharing. So if you're
yes,
sharing,
I did notice that. I just was wanting to let Juliet to prepare herself. So I was just filling in some blank space so we don't have
gotcha. Okay, very good.
A dead air. Unless others would like to, we could take time to introduce themselves as well if there's any new members on this call. Or we could have sung and danced by Andrew.
Well, we do have enough new guests that perhaps you could take a look at your chat and allow them to introduce themselves if they choose.
Let me see. I am seeing, for instance, let me see.
Well, I don't recognize Norma and SIA and Sean, but maybe you know them and I don't.
Yeah, well, if they haven't been on our IGU Summit events before, then it would definitely be worthwhile, I think, to have them introduce themselves as well. Although we could also do that afterwards. But the floor is open for anybody who would like to say a few words, if they would like to. Oh.
Morning, the earth will be filled. The earth will be filled with the knowledge of the glory of the Lord. The earth will be filled. The earth will be filled with the knowledge of the glory of the Lord. The earth will be filled. The earth will be filled with the knowledge of the glory of the Lord. Big trees not bloom and barns empty roofs. Now people give praise to the Master. The earth will be filled. Yes, the earth will be filled with trees planted by people who know the knowledge of the glory of the Lord. Thank you for being here with the Andrew Networks, Brother Lloyd Hafferty. My name is Sir Love One, representing God, the Living Well Tour. Thank you, Brother Hafferty, and I look forward to planting some trees here in Los Angeles. Working with Twikatane, Bridges of Hope, Brother Reverend Sampson, Empire for the Youth, Mr. Wayne Lyons, yeah, and you. Give thanks and praise.
Awesome. Yes, so we have our best people on the call today. Some of them are here with us. So thank you, Sir Bailey. That was very inspirational as always, whenever we can have music on our calls. So again, I'd ask perhaps Niuma Tranqui if they are able to unmute themselves and introduce themselves while we're just setting up here. As Juliet hopefully is still on the call. Or perhaps Sean Mukochea could introduce themselves. We're open to anybody having a discussion.
Hello, everyone. Greetings from Zimbabwe. My name is Ian Mukochea. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we hear you.
Okay, my name is Ian Mukochea from Zimbabwe. I'm the founder of an organization called AHIABGA, which means know where you come from. I'm a community trauma counselor where we are dealing with in fact, people with different trauma experiences, and our focus more is on healing. And then after we do our healing sessions, we have life skills where we include organic farming and anything to do with the climate and the environment. Thanks so much.
Thank you very much. As well as I'm assuming that you are already a member of the network, and perhaps we have not yet connected. But thank you for joining our call today. If anybody else would like to say a few words, as we're just waiting for Juliet to come and share her, her presentation.
Good evening, everyone.
Hello, Susan. We heard you for a second.
Yeah,
okay.
Going on in Kenya. Yeah, current activities that are going on in Kenya. It's land preparation and input acquisition. And also we are preparing vegetable garden, vegetable nurseries for farmers. And right now I'm doing a volunteer job in, excuse me, I'm doing a volunteer job in work in children's home, not only in Marakwet, but in the entire country. So I have a team of around 10 women who participate who participate. We are breaking up into projects. So I have these women all scattered all over the country, and I also have this in the same WhatsApp. We have other women from Tanzania and also from South Africa. So we are doing this work on volunteer with the children, the youth, and the women. And right now we are coordinating, especially countries that have the same rain pattern. We are coordinating, making sure that they are establishing vegetable nurseries, because soon we are going to have plenty of rain, and we want every farmer to have vegetables in their gardens, their kitchen garden, and that is food security. We are also going into SDG 2, zero hunger, and also poverty alleviation. We say we'd rather show them how to do the right way to provide food only for a short time. But when we show our farmers what to do, then they will do that, and they'll have plenty of food for the family and also for sale. Well, we are in this project of children's home. We have other children who have so much needs, but we are trying to get sponsors and well-wishers who can be able to come in and even welcome to the children's home and see what is going on. And we are combining all these activities with agriculture and also improved education to see whether we can improve the lives of orphans, the lives of the youths in the local community. Thank you very much for listening.
Yeah, I was thinking about how important it would be, I think, in terms of establishing the interfaith neighborhood and business collaboratives in these local communities to have so many others, hopefully, across all of the different sectors to support your work and the work of these volunteers. Hopefully you don't always need to have volunteers moving into the future doing this type of work, because although there's dedication to do it by obviously some people in the community who want this to be sustainable, which means there needs to be some kind of supports beyond just people being passionate about doing it. Although the passion is important, it's also important to set it up as a community enterprise that will be able to continue the work, not just sort of ad hoc. Again, part of the reason why we are also formalizing this process as we move forward to bring together our communities. So Juliet, are you almost prepared?
Professor Lloyd, we've had to open on everyone a different laptop, and we are now getting into the meeting. So I have to present with the slides.
Mm-hmm. So maybe a minute or two more?
Yes, please, because we've had to open a different laptop. The other one, I don't know what happened after the power failure. Mm-hmm. So it says launching meeting on the other laptop. It might not be my name, but we're coming in.
Okay, excellent.
All right, thank you. Thank you for patience.
No problem. Is there anybody else on the call that would like to say a few words as well to introduce themselves in case they are new to our IGU Summit events? Samson, I see your hand is up.
Yes, good morning, evening, everyone, in respective of where you are coming from. I am Samson Lloyd, the founder and the director of Bridges of Hope, community-based organization that is registered in Kenya. I actually am very glad to be in the platform today. I believe this is a changing conference, a life-changing conference that is going to change entire world or globally. I want to thank God for each and every person that is on board. What I want to share is just about a bit of what I am doing, basically, probably in the area that I'm coming from. I'm coming from Homa Bay, South Nyanza part of Kenya, and Bridges of Hope is a community-based organization that is registered with the NGO Coordinating Registration Board. We have actually, our main mandate is to improve the vulnerable life of women and youth in African society. Basically, what we are doing right now is that we are training field officers who are going to undertake women advocacy, because we are approaching election period. We are training around 60 women. Each and every country will be represented by one county, will be represented by one woman who will train other 10 women who are going to take part of a women counseling session during election, and also help in advocacy and the rights of women within our country. We are also dealing with agribusiness, that is agriculture and business. Right now we are giving more than 200 groups, women groups and youth groups, free seeds, that is free seeds. We have actually helped them to prepare land for planting, but we are giving them the traditional vegetable seedlings, around 16 of varieties of seeds. So we are glad to help the society, help the women, help the youths, and also promote agribusiness and entrepreneurship within our community. Basically, we are open to any like-minded organization, society, project, and even company who would also like or love to participate in the project. Otherwise, God bless all of us. God bless UnityNet Global.
Oh, thank you very much, Samson. The alignment, of course, is very good in terms of the work you're doing on the ground in the local communities and what we actually want to achieve. So this is why we will continue to work with you and make sure that we move forward together. So I'm seeing now, of course, we have our presentation. So we can pass it along to Juliet.
Yes, hi, good evening. Are you able to see it?
Yes.
Okay, thank you so much. All right, and am I loud enough? Because I'm using a gadget I've never used before.
The sound is good from my end.
Okay, all right, awesome, thank you. Now I can start now. Firstly, can I just thank everyone for your patience. We've been having power cuts recently, and as I say, Murphy's Law, it would happen just before my presentation. But I'm glad we're able to move to another space and connect. Okay, so my name is Juliet Miabo. It's Miabo, and I am based in South Africa. I'm the executive director for the Soweto CSI Council. The Soweto CSI Council and everybody does know what Soweto is. Soweto is the southwestern township of South Africa. So Soweto is actually not an African name. It's an acronym for Southwestern Townships. And CSI stands for, and I know that we call it corporate social investment. And in other places it's called as, in other words, but we call it corporate social investment. And the whole idea of the Soweto CSI Council is to actually, as our payoff line says, it's about getting business to do good. You know, Soweto is the oldest township in South Africa. Being the oldest township in South Africa, you'd expect that it shouldn't have problems. You'd expect that the formula of actually developing the people who live in areas like Soweto would be almost unnecessary. Yet, what is happening over the years has proven, using Soweto as a model, that the more a country develops, the more a country gets industrious, the more challenges increase. And Soweto being the first township in South Africa, it then means it becomes on the firing line. It becomes a township either has to be the one that sets the standard and everyone looks up to, yet things have changed, and unfortunately things do actually change for the worst. So our motto as Soweto CSI Council is business doing good. Business doing good is not actually about the business in Soweto doing good. It's about looking at the fact that South Africa is economically quite an active country in the world. We all know that. And that is why South Africa sits in the G20, and that is why South Africa is recognized as an economically viable country for investment. Yet what you find is both multinationals, you find that national companies, even including organizations such as those of the government and some NGOs, they actually miss the mark in terms of what it is that, what social responsibility projects are required for Soweto. But my topic today and my discussion, I think I've spoken about this several times, about the challenges, but my topic today is not just about business doing good in a relevant way in places like Soweto, but it's about positioning Soweto, because it's almost like an example of what developments need to happen, or what development needs to be in a country like South Africa. We've spoken in different places about projects that have been done by various businesses that have proven to be either irrelevant. In many ways, that actually formed the necessity for an organization such as the Soweto CSI Council. The Soweto CSI Council works in association with various organizations. In an African language, it's said, I'll say the English version, no man is an island. This also applies because no organization is an island. The Soweto CSI Council, we are more of a facilitating organization, facilitating that business must happen and do good, not just in Soweto, but in all the townships of South Africa. As they say, if you can get it right in New York, you'll get it right anywhere else. The same applies with Soweto. Soweto, we're having a population of more than, officially it has a population of about 3 million people, but we know that the unofficial statistics is much more than that. And that makes it the biggest. It's actually as big as some of the countries, even if bigger than countries. So the Soweto CSI Council aims to push a particular agenda that would actually be replicated. And we put programs that we do in Soweto, and we actually replicate them in other townships in South Africa. The topic today is the modern vulnerables of South Africa, a grassroots perspective. The word modern vulnerables of South Africa actually came up based on my conversation with one of our members here on the Global Unity Network, where I could pick up that there's a misperception about the people that we serve in Soweto, or the people that we serve within our organization. The Soweto CSI Council is a non-profit company, it's a non-profit organization. And when they said, oh, clearly you guys in South Africa have what you call modern vulnerables, I then realized that, we do have a problem and we need to clear perceptions about a country like ours, and also clear perceptions about the people at the grassroots level. We work closely with Tots and Kids, organization that focuses on children, under the age of 18, and Gemma Skaters, which focuses on youth, and I'll touch a bit on that. And also, especially, we work closely with Imbokodo Month, which is an organization, Imbokodo, I'll explain later what it touches on, which focuses mainly on women. Okay. That aerial picture, thank God to drones and ICT, that aerial picture summarizes quite well what we mean when we say we have modern vulnerables who live on the periphery of society. So in South Africa, as much as South Africa, the richest 10% of the population, as I'd indicated before, owns more than 85% of household wealth. We did have extensive discussions about this previously. What you then see there on your left, that is where the 10%, if not less, of the South African population resides. That's a type of environment that they reside in. And then you have a great percentage of the population, which amounts to almost about 80% or just slightly less, that lives in this type of setup. And then what that means is you have a very economically active country. You have a country that is well represented in the UN, that is represented with the World Bank, the country that says, and when I'm talking about this, I'm pointing this part, the country where it said, no, all is well. And clearly when people look at the situation of South Africa, and I'm talking outside development, the emphasis could be on this side of the country. And this is the part that I would call the first world South Africa. I have mentioned this before, that I always look at South Africa as three worlds. You have the world number one, that owns the means of production and land and everything. And then you have world number two, that is run mainly by government. And that is where the development sector like ourselves is trying to make an impact. And then you have, and the world number two is the one that the people on the right would be dependent on. Yet the irony is whatever income that people get on the right ultimately goes back to feed world number one. So it's quite ironic, and that is why I will highlight some of the programs that we do as a Soweto CSI Council. And also to emphasize that it's not programs that we do in Soweto, but we are using Soweto as an epicenter and a symbol of change. And we all know that Soweto is known for actually bringing in change and actually transforming a country. So we're keeping that spirit up. Okay. It's normally said ladies first, and I was interested to hear that from the previous, during the introductions, people were talking about how much they are doing for women. And it is, I like to applaud that, because the more you do for women, that is when you're actually doing for the nation. So in a country like ours, we do have a situation where women do live on the periphery. I've actually deliberately chosen to put Black women, for the sake of our language in South Africa, African women, on this slide, because I do not want to give the impression that women when we talk about empowered women, it means only women who are historically disadvantaged or white, or people who are Asian. So what I'm then actually saying that the progress, and when you look at empowered women in South Africa, we all know the people like Phumzile Mlambo-Ngcuka, you know, people who've actually made serious impact on policy and decisions, and others have actually done well in the space of business. And that would be the world on the left. And that these women personally might be sitting in the strata of, I don't even think they're in world one, but if they are sitting in world one, they use the resources and their means in world two, whether through government, through their political status, through their involvement with the United Nations, to make a difference to women in world three. What we need to highlight is that South Africa ranks second. I hope Professor Carlos is here, Professor, because he likes talking about us being a G20 member. South Africa ranks second place out of the G20 members, with a huge 42% seat of women in parliament. So as you can see, in terms of the Second World, not the Second World War that we're looking at, or the Third World War, in terms of the Second World, we do have women participating, we do have women making a difference. And that is why our Constitution, our Bill of Rights, actually models the type of power that the women, like Dr. Phumzile Mlambo-Ngcuka, carry, and the power that they carry is meant, and the seats in parliament, we have more women in parliament, I think, than almost like more than all the countries in Africa, and it's one of the highest in the world. So policy-wise, Second World is trying to make a difference for the Third World. The reality that I'm juxtaposing, it's the woman who is a South African who lives on the periphery of power, not just periphery of the economy, but periphery of power, because this is the woman, this is a typical situation in shacks where you have a single woman who, and I am going to talk about the whole absence of fathers, a single woman who would be raising various children. And someone else could easily say, oh yeah, but why does she have so many children if she has challenges? And whoever it is, they mustn't say it, because we can talk afterwards. But what it is women like this, you find that they get, because they are not employed, because they are literally at home, you find other family members who are possibly working as domestic workers coming through. I'll use the word dump, respectfully so, coming through to dump their children with auntie because she's not working. And while they are out working in another province, when they are out working in Gauteng or in the first world, based on the picture that I showed earlier on, because in this world here, where we have swimming pools, and as you can see, you are not, even when you're an employee there, you are not necessarily welcome to bring your kids. So if you do have your own children, which is normal for an average adult woman, you then leave your kids elsewhere. And this is also a typical case where an average woman in South Africa who lives on the periphery, who is marginalized, would actually be looking after at least 10 to 12 children. And I, with my own personal story with a grandmother who was a domestic worker, I know of a situation where we actually in a house there would be about 12 of us. It would be cousins, but at the end of the day, it was her responsibility. So as much as in terms of being the modern country that we are looking at very disadvantaged women, and we are looking at women who are actually vulnerable to abuse. And I just want to mention a few things that those women who are vulnerable to those socioeconomic problems, they are vulnerable, yet they live in a modern environment. You have also women who are vibrant, yet who have very deep-seated wounds. We've spoken about issues of coming up with circles of healings that we've discussed with some of the delegates on this group, that women are not just dealing with the hunger, the poverty, but in this modern environment and the lack of land, but they're actually sitting with deep-seated wounds. And also they continue to journey on, but with markings of a continuous struggle. The struggle is not the struggle that ended with Mandela when he got released. No, the struggle of women continues. In this modern environment where we have women sitting in parliament, women CEOs, women participating in the first world, the reality is a lot of women in our country are continuing not just in the struggle, but also with the markings. If you think about slavery, when people have been in slavery, they would pull off their shirts to show off, to show how they've been hit, not show off, but actually to show the marks of being hit while they're working in the cotton fields. Women, actually, South African women who live on the periphery continue that struggle. And it's a struggle that they carry in silence, because if you have to be looking after the well-being of others, you do tend to ignore what you're going through. The apartheid system, the reason that we have a situation like the slide that we just shown now is because the apartheid system in South Africa, just for background information, the prime minister or the leader then who came up in the 40s, who came up with apartheid in South Africa, had actually studied in a university, I think in Germany. He studied under the principles that the Nazi regime had set up. So the implementation of apartheid in South Africa was not something that fell off the sky, but it was actually based on a system that was already working elsewhere, not necessarily positively, to oppress others. And that total system control was brought in the country. So what that means is apartheid meant to control every, and not necessarily positively, to control every aspect of the lives of Black people in South Africa. And that system control meant that we had women and children who live in neglect. Currently I'll focus on women. We have women who live in neglect, who live in solitude. So when we look at issues of the mines and the minerals that have been extracted and have been used to develop the modern world, here comes the other word, modern, and also to develop parts of South Africa, those have come at a cost of literally leaving women on their own, because the men had to go into the mines, they had to go and live in squalor, they had to go and live in bunkers, not the type of bunkers that President Rana went to, but small bunkers where you have almost like a 2 square, a small room, and you'd have 5 men living literally on top of each other, providing labor. So what it meant is that women continue to live in neglect and in solitude. What makes it interesting is that this happened primarily in the era of apartheid and also in the part of colonialization, is that the twist to that is that, excuse me, the twist to that, it actually brought women together. When you see the word Imbokodo bond, Imbokodo, for those who don't know, means it's a woman, but not every woman is an Imbokodo. Imbokodo, it's a woman who takes it upon themselves to make a change in their environment, a positive change, not just for herself, but for others. Imbokodo comes from a grinding stone. People in Africa will be familiar with Imbokodo, where you take maize and you grind it, and then you turn it into a staple meal that everyone can eat. But Imbokodo has 2 meanings. Imbogoto, that stone provides for the community, for the family. But yet Imbogoto, especially in a case of a community and society like Soweto, and the approach that we're taking is that Imbogoto means you can take the same stone and actually fight the system. So as much as there was a total system control, women found ways and looked at ways of how they could fight the system. Because that time the system focused a lot on men. So Imbogoto bond include women based on their past. It include women together based on their pain. And one of the things that Mama Winnie Mandela, who would always say, is that there's no stranger in the struggle, meaning that when the system focused on emasculating men, it then meant that women then had the time, whether they were cooking or looking after children, or whatever it is that they were doing in the community on their own, left alone in neglect, to actually to say we are not strangers to each other. The apartheid system, which remember that in terms of Soweto and in terms of South Africa, the apartheid system was meant to push tribalism, where women were supposed, or people were supposed to be divided on the basis of the language, on where they came from, basically superficial divisions. It was supposed to be based on ethnicity. So what they used is they had Basotho women, Basotho fighting with the Zulus. We had the Xhosas fighting with the everyone else. That was a whole rule of divide and rule. So part of the control system was divide and rule. But then what happens is the women decided that, you know, they will stay united. I don't even think the focus on it was a natural decision. And I grew up in an environment where I saw that happen, where women, in spite of the language, especially in a society like Soweto, where everyone speaks different languages, they would work together to find solutions and to counteract the divide and rule system that the apartheid government had introduced. It was working in all the industrial spaces that they could control, but they could not control the fact that women would meet, whether at a funeral or at a church. And then that is where women would, I've put the word there, ububhanga, bamabhulu. That's one of those terms growing up in Soweto that was quite common, where it means the stupidity of apartheid. But the direct translation is the stupidity of the Boers, but I'm being politically correct. I'm saying the stupidity of apartheid, to respect our members here. So ububhanga bamabhulu, that philosophy basically meant that whatever the apartheid system was bringing in, as Soweto historically, it just means that ububhanga, you can see that how do you divide people based on language? How do you divide? So everything that apartheid was ububhanga, it was pure stupidity. So women didn't just sit and do nothing about it. I'll show you the picture on the right here. We had cases other than Mama Winnie Mandela. We had thousands and thousands of other women who participated in the struggle. And those were inspired by that whole principle that they cannot stand ububhanga, they cannot stand stupidity. And it got to a point where I just want to hold on to that point of ububhanga, because it was used extensively. And I think that also explains the momentum and the philosophy and the attitudes of women, especially in townships, that men did allowed ububhanga. Obviously, that is not true, because when you have a gun on your head and someone putting a boot on your neck, you will you will do as they tell you. So the men did not necessarily allow ububhanga, but women felt that seeing that men, unfortunately, like George Floyd, had boots and knees on their necks, they felt that they had the freedom. So that spirit of us, we will not tolerate ububhanga, still continues to drive what we do. It continues to drive the philosophies and the mindsets that you find amongst women in South Africa. And then what is said is, in spite of the historical work that has been done and that was done by women and the sacrifices, women still continue to face abuse. They continue to face poverty, economic deprivation. They continue to face a depressed society. And I'm specifically saying that they are facing the depressed society because they would be concerned about the depression of others. They would be concerned about how depressed their children are, their grandchildren are, and they would unlikely focus on themselves. They continue to face hunger. They continue to face killings. During apartheid time, we faced the killings. Obviously, those were politically motivated. Unfortunately, now women are facing the killings that are imposed on them. I posted earlier a video about where Julius Malema was speaking, where he was saying that there's a time when you go to another country and you say, hey, I'm from South Africa, and people go, oh, you're from Mandela land. Oh, how's Mandela? But now the things have turned that he says now when he travels to other countries and he says, oh, I'm from South Africa, and he says that with a lot of shame, people then say, oh, you guys are the ones who are busy killing your own women, because unfortunately those are the type of situations that women face. Women face landlessness. Yeah, as beautiful as it is as a country and as vast as it is, because of laws and total system control, and some of the laws became justified through traditional laws and customary laws, especially later after the 40s, they were actually enforced by the apartheid law, where they were saying, why should women own land? While before they used to own land. So we have landlessness, and that is why we have a huge concentration of what you call VVCs, the volatile communities, where people are concentrated, living like sardines or living like small fish in a small space. And women still continue to face, I'll call it modern toxic masculinity, because when I say modern, in the sense that it becomes informed by the influences a lot from the West, from the influences also from colonization that says, and also influences from religion, where you say a man is the head of the family, and that also with due respect to the own religion that I follow, that even religions such as Christianity continue to perpetuate that type of masculinity, where a woman would say, no, but as an African woman, I've always been a matriarchy, I've always looked after the family, but now that would come in, that's the type of things. And then women face violence continuously. And I've written that women face winter, and it's actually winter in the sense that when it's cold, and we've seen in a lot of African countries, the person who will go and carry wood to keep the children warm, who will keep food in the house, it would be a woman, even in communities where there would be men around. And then what you have is in communities such as Soweto, that is facing the challenges of being mixed, of being modern vulnerables. You have various communities from different countries coming to settle in a place like Soweto because of the modern, inverted commas, infrastructure, because there are roads there, there are shopping centers there, there used to be rail, unfortunately it was destroyed. So you have the modern infrastructure, yet what you have is that is supposed to serve very deprived people. So people come in to try and enjoy the modern infrastructure, and then when women try and say we want to work for our children, because they speak up, we want work for our young people that we put through school, and then they become classified as being xenophobic. When they talk about how there are no opportunities for their children, and they are talking on the basis of where they've been and what they've sacrificed for versus what they see, they actually face that stigma of being xenophobic. The poster you see here is one of the campaigns that we, what we do is we have a program called that deals with Bokuku. And we focus on, when I say women, I'm not talking about women who are in their 40s and 30s. I'm talking about women of all ages, girl children, basically from birth up to death, though we do have classifications. Yeah, so we look at various campaigns. One of them, as the modern, what's that word again? The modern vulnerables. As you can see, we have roads here. One of the biggest challenges is food security, which is very interesting because some of the best food, some of the best farms, all that comes from South Africa. You have wines. Wines are not made out of water and acid, of grapes. We have this world of plenty all around us. Yet we face huge food security as a community. So as a community of people in South Africa, and I'm saying we because I identify with the communities that I work with. And what I'd like to highlight is we've run a campaign, food security drive, and we continue to run that. We've run it for a long time. We focus on the elderly because they're the ones, if you give them one cabbage, they will turn it into a meal for a week. So that's just an example. What is interesting, as I'm sure we all remember the insurrections that happened, I'll use the word insurrections, or the July where the mob and people were looting. The people from the most vulnerable communities, communities, some of them which were organized by ourselves. I'll point the picture here at the bottom. We're the ones who actually went to go and put the mess. People who want to take pride in their community went back and cleaned the mess that was done. One of the sad things about cleaning and being part of that campaign was when women would say, or not just women, even young people were involved. Oh, are we supposed to throw away this food? Are we supposed to, because that food has to be destroyed? Because the owner of the shopping center would say, no, insurance expects it to be destroyed for them to claim. So this is where you have a modern philosophy, economic philosophy about the food being thrown away so that the owner of the shopping center, who's most likely an Asian pest company, would say, no, we throw it away so that we can claim. And then we have the poor having to throw away food, and they were being guarded by security guards that they must not touch any of that food that came out of the destructions of the malls. It was actually quite a sad situation because we had hungry people throwing away food for a rationale that they could not understand, even identify with. And what we do as Soweto CSI Council, we do food parcels. As I say, we prioritize Bokuku. But we focus on Bokuku who care. You see, being modern vulnerables, we do have Bokuku who are basically on their own, and maybe their children are doing fairly well. But we want to we focus on those Bokuku who care for children or who care for other family members. There is a social pension grant that the government gives to the elderly, which is quite it's quite decent, I'll put it that way. But it is also based on the fact that your average elderly person in South Africa, most of which are women, look after on average 10 children, or even in a household of 20. So if you do the maths, 2,000 rands actually doesn't go far if we have 20 people to look after with it. Obviously, there's issues of grandkids, and also the work what you have that are vulnerable unemployed moms, which is quite a lot of them. And this also has a lot to do with our education system that does not prepare people or give people access to any employment. And this is informed by the fact that those who own in the first world do not necessarily go to the third world and say, hey, we have jobs. They will find ways of cutting corners, to cut tax, to avoid paying employment benefits, and then they would employ our fellow sisters and brothers from, I'll use Uganda as an example, or Zimbabwe. So the first world there will then saves money, yet what it does is it creates bigger problems in what you call the third world. So you have these big companies that provide work, that are busy, that are industrious, that are, when the rand falls, they panic, when the dollar goes up, so there's a whole that discussion, but they find ways of saying, okay, how do they make and benefit from that? But without even considering how their decisions of not employing South Africans impacts on issues of food security, or impacts on the fact that you have more people who are unemployed, and then that means is that actually causes more problems in our society. And that means you've got gender-based violence cases, because a hungry stomach is an angry stomach, I always say that. So some of the issues of gender-based violence are based on the fact that there is no food security if you're hungry, and elderly, and a lot of the cases we deal with, you have a granny that is sitting there who's just received 2,000 rands, and you are hungry. There's a very good chance that if you are stronger, I'm not saying it's justifiable, you might use your powers to abuse in order to have money, maybe to buy yourself food, but it doesn't justify. And also even the same with women. The women used to get money for the children, it will be taken away. So food security causes major problems in our society. And as you know, South Africa, this modern South Africa with this modern economy, has the highest levels of gender-based violence. And also we work with community stakeholders to deal with these problems. This is where we do the private-public partnership. So as Soweto CSI Council, we make sure that we still stay in conversation with the government, because it's still their responsibility, not that they move fast, they have red tape, even in the development space, but we keep the conversation with them, we make them aware of the realities on the ground. And what we then do is we also involve YOCs, that we've established I'll call it a system called YOCs, which is Youth for Community Care and Support. And these are young people that get special training, that get informed about gender-based violence. We train them to look out for signs for children who are possibly abused. And we use their homes currently as a temporary rescue place for mostly women and children who are feeling abused, or who are feeling vulnerable, or who are threatened, that at least if you run to a home of a YOC, we call them YOC, you can be there temporarily while we wait for the police if they ever come, or until an intervention is done. So, but it's not everyone, not every young person on the youth program qualifies as a YOC, because you know that there are sensitivities where people could take advantage of vulnerable situations. Professor Lloyd, can someone say hello, just to make sure that I'm not talking to myself for now?
Yeah, we are all listening. We are here.
Thank you. I'm used to being in church. In church, there's always an amen, but this is fun. I keep bringing up Dr. Phumzile Mlambo for more reasons than one, because of the work that she's done for women, that she's done both in a personal and in a public space. And also because she's the one person who actually, people like Mama Winnie Mandela, who's in another picture somewhere, who are a symbol of the fact that Soweto is a birthing place of women who contributed to our freedom, to our democracy, our economic emancipation. I'm using the word economic emancipation. It's supposed to be a continuous, because this still needs to happen, actually all those areas, because we have democracy, but women don't necessarily have freedoms. And also that Soweto, we have a month, it's not called, but it's called the Women's Month, which is in August, which is supposed to enhance and also inspire women to continue to participate in business and industry. So as a Soweto CSI Council, we do focus on the vulnerable, on the poor. We do focus on those people who are hungry, the people I speak of and I work with. Yet we feel that it's important that we build on the work that's been done by powerful women such as Sisulus, there are a lot of them. I'm talking people who've been there historically. And for that reason, that as Soweto CSI Council in August, we look at programs where we engender transformation in terms of the role that the women play in the economy. Because when I speak of the shopping malls, when I speak of those malls that were attacked, I mean, what you saw on television, what was interesting is that you'd see a group of young men, I work with all of them, so I can talk about all of them, walking out with a plasma screen and maybe in a music system, a Sony music system. And another group would be walking out with a set of alcohol. And then when you look, that's what helped me to be able to look at those pictures. When you look properly, you'll see women who will be walking out, those who went and participated for reasons that they understand, would walk out with a bag of maize meal. They'll be dragging a bag of potatoes. They'll be dragging, the young women be walking out of there with a bag of Pampers and sanitary towels. And for me, that was very telling that, you know, we have women those malls are actually built with an understanding that the consumers, the biggest consumer and the decider of where the money goes is women. So women are the main consumers and would also consume wisely. And also what we do is we try and then say that as women who are consumers, they also need to be owners of the industries. And owning industry does not necessarily mean you have to be your Bill Gates or you have to, no. Owning an industry could mean owning your small shop or your small spaza shop. So we use programs to actually encourage women to own, because if you don't own land, you see, programs that we do with the Soweto CSI Council in the townships, women do not have land. What they have is their bed, and that's the most that they have if they're lucky, if they don't share it with 20 other or 10 other children. So we say, whatever you do, whether you sell chips at school or you cook or you, whatever you do, it's better you own in order for you to control and actually minimize vulnerability to all sorts of things, including gender-based violence. And also we believe that women should be the protagonist of the country's economy, and they already are. It's just that unfortunately with our history, that's not the case. And then we also promote programs that inform, educate, and accelerate women's achievement. So as though we have women majority in the periphery, it's important that we highlight those women who actually are doing it and making a difference, and they don't have to be high up at any level. And we look at annual events. It's called Imbokodo Month, and we support that extensively as Soweto CSI Council. And then where we're looking at women entrepreneurs, every level, women leaders, and who then will inspire other women who will say it's possible. And we do month-long activities. And then what we do is it's important we highlight access points, because some of the some of the problems that we have in society is that women put the ceiling glass is actually based on history, and you were told you can't, therefore even if you're allowed to, you don't because of those, but that's also a mental situation. And we encourage women to get involved. For instance, we have a campaign for sanitary towels. The common word in South Africa for sanitary towels is pads. And as I sit here, most men sitting here, not necessarily none, and most men here on the platform don't use sanitary towels. And yet you find that the business of sanitary towels or pads, very little, if any, is actually run by women. In South Africa, based on what I know, there are only 2 companies that the government is trying to support that actually produce sanitary towels. And you ask yourself, I mean, how difficult can it be? And the best person to know how to have the best sanitary towel would be a woman. So in this month of August, in Imbokodo Month, we promote such, that's just an example, women to get involved in areas like that. Within Imbokodo Month, we have Imbokodo in Dialogue. And when we say we call them Imbokodo in Dialogue, so it's webinars that we do, and we look at different industries. Last year we looked at we looked at the ICT industry, we looked at supply chain, we looked at retail, we looked at health, we looked at finance, where we are highlighting women who are doing work there. But what's important is that we look at issues, because it's not just about talking about a woman who, we don't focus on the fact that, for instance, this woman is making, it works in security, finance securities as an example. We look at what challenges does she face as a woman and how women could prepare themselves in any industry, because then you might have an empowered, modern empowered nation in terms of policy, but it doesn't mean that men have changed. Someone, it was Professor Nyao who sent me a quotation that Marcus Garvey said, was that one of the mistakes that he did when he talked about empowerment of particularly Black people in America was he did not emphasize enough the need for men to change their minds about women. So policy might be great, but the question is, there are those challenges. So those challenges that women face. So what we then do is we have discussions, and this year we're going to focus more on, we'll look at the sectors, and I want to use the opportunity in the platform to highlight the work we do in the Global Unity Network and highlight the women who are making those differences in community, but who are doing very well in order to inspire others to start. So it's unlimited. So Professor Lloyd, I'll be submitting a proposal. So as I say that when we talk about women, the first mind, what comes to mind would be possibly someone my age or someone in their 30s. We realized that we needed to bring in we have a campaign, we need to bring in the girls. We have a campaign called You Go Girl. You Go Girl means exactly that. It's meant to promote the empowerment of girl children by arming them with the knowledge of their rights. Number one, their rights as human beings, never mind any other right. And also that it's important for them to know that no matter what they face, that they are not alone. And also we urge young girls to, when we say you go, that means, and you've seen in a lot of situations, I'm sure we've seen in our countries or in our classrooms, that normally when it's said, oh, who will go and switch on the light, or who will go and switch on that laptop, or who will go and fetch something from the office, in most cases, it would be boys who stand up. So the boys would, because they come from homes where they're encouraged to take the lead. So boys would naturally be the ones who stand up, and the girls would be expecting the boys to do the work. So the You Go Girl program is actually, there's an exclamation mark missing there, because the you, it says you, that means you, they're talking about you. So the opportunities are for you, young girl. The opportunities that are there are for you, they're not for the next child or for someone else. And then what we do, we also promote, we get the girls, we say to them, get up, do it yourself. Because we believe that with the You Go Girl program, we are able to counteract the problems that they might face as young girls, or as girls or as women in future, where they will be dependent, or they'll be staying in abusive environments because they feel someone else must go and bring in the money while they sit. So they can do that out of a choice, but it's important that they need to know that they have the ability and the capacity to do it. So what we do is we tell the girls to reach out for opportunities, and at times to look for them, because girls tend to shy away. And unfortunately, with modern technology, we have a society where girls will be encouraged to spend more time with Instagram. And I'm even talking about girls who live in the periphery of society. Someone will be coming from a house that has nothing, but they will have a Facebook account. That creates opportunities for us to reach them, but most of the time it's meant for vanity rather than for building themselves and getting information to move themselves forward. So we look at, we work with another organization that it's called The Future, which encourages girls to also, or more students in totality. So it's all about getting the girl child to participate. We run a program called School Mobilization. We've done a few schools, and the last one that we did was in October, because we had to stop before the exams. And in the schools, what we do is we get the girls, we get everyone to participate. So it's not just for the girls, but we also involve they're the boys. And we start at primary schools. It also, what it does is it helps in the situation where the girls become aware before they go to high school or to senior school what their rights are, because we don't want a situation where, because with the girl children being falling pregnant, and the reality is some of the girls get exposed to unprepared sexual activity when they get to high school, because we have a 13-year-old going to high school to go and study in the same school with a 19-year-old, because you do find 19 and 20-year-olds at high school. So the whole idea, is to actually prepare the girls, not just in terms of them being proactive, but also to be on the lookout and to be able to take informed decisions. And we also make the boy children aware of the rights of girls and the consequences of their behavior. I've put this picture here specifically because as I'm busy talking my English, it might actually come across that, oh no, she's talking about girls who are sitting there in Sandton. And here our program focuses on all the girls. We're working with girls in colored communities, Indian communities, and we go to schools which are predominantly white as well. We're getting very few of them now. But we go to all girls. Our program is meant for all schools because women, doesn't matter what color they are, all girls face the same challenges. Yet as Soweto CSI Council, what we don't do, we don't end up in the fancy environments, in the fancy schools. We do actually make sure that this is a very small shack next to a, there on the top picture, the small shack next to a house. So we're talking about people who are staying in shacks and VVC communities, where one of the girls on the program actually lives with her mom and her younger brother in this shack because that was what they could afford. And for many reasons, the mother wanted them to live here because it's closer to a school. And this house, as it is, it's this normal house. It's quite crowded, but for reasons like that, yeah, we have. So we are literally working at a grassroots level, and then we continuously engage with girls, and because there are one of the things that I'm most proud of in the 20 years, if not more, that I've worked in communities, is when there's a young girl, okay, she's a young woman now, who came to me and she said, hey, Juliet, I want to talk to you. I'm like, oh, what's happening? And then she said, I just want to tell you, I haven't told this to anyone else. I want to tell you that I'm actually interested in girls. I'm not interested in boys. So for me, it's a small thing, but the fact that, it's also a big deal that she was able to come out to me about her sexuality and recognizing the fact that she's gay, or yeah. So what it means is we need to give girls also a space, and that's what we aim to do, a space where they can feel safe, things that they cannot talk to their parents about. The Youth for Community Care and Support is all about replicating and duplicating the type of young people that girls can speak to about various aspects. And one of the campaigns that we're running, and we need help continuously for, is sanitary towels. That's a topic and a discussion and a presentation for a different day. But if there is anyone who wants to, only if they're safe, who wants to dump, I'll use the word dump, because at the moment we'll take anything, sanitary towels, we need those, because girls, some schools will provide sanitary towels, but as soon as the girl steps out of the school, they're on their own and they face all sorts of challenges. So we do need continuously pads. There's the young lady there on the right. Her name is Crystal. She's an influencer. As I've always said, we believe in ICT and we believe in social media. She is one of the faces and the voices for the vulnerable girls. She promotes the need for the You Go Girl campaign. That's her there. I'll try and move faster. I'm now coming to, I know it's a lot of words, but it's not just words. I'm shifting to talk about SMMEs, because as Soweto CSI Council, you can't be a township. You can't come from a township that is supposed to be vibrant and ignore the fact that there are SMMEs and there's a lot of SMME activity. So we have to, using the words that the apartheid system used, we have to also use the approach of total system control. So in the areas of SMME development, we work and partner with other organizations, some of which I am part of, Township Economic Council of South Africa. I'm also part of the Soweto Business Council of South Africa, which is various networks that try and give opportunities and make information to businesses in the townships. So the picture that you see here, and I put it specifically because we had a campaign that we did in the Morafong area. That is where Harmony Mines is. And we've established a relationship with one of the consultants for Harmony Mines and the community there. So it's not just about SMME development, I'll rush through this, but it's also about looking at the fact that those communities have gone through a lot, and in spite of that, the fact that they are mining communities. So it's SMME development, and also we deal with issues of gender-based violence, because one of the things that is common, and it's in the mining communities, it's a saying that says, what happens underground stays underground. And there's been a study of gender-based violence and sexual harassment for women who work in that sector. So as much as opportunities are being opened, the modern women who take up those opportunities through education, they still face the vulnerability of being abused in those sectors, whether it's in the mine or elsewhere. So we work with different organizations and communities. This is one of the campaigns we did, and we're wanting to do the same campaign in Rustenburg. We do have a group of people we work with there. Sorry, wrong cursor. Okay. As Soweto CSI Council, you saw earlier on, we had the logo of Tots and Kids. As you all know, that it's one of the projects and the initiatives that are started. Tots and Kids, it's a non-profit organization, but it didn't come up as, it didn't also fall off the sky. What came out quite strongly is, other than the work that we do as Soweto CSI Council and the work I've done over the years in communities, is that we have situations where we will refer women to say, okay, here's a situation, go to court, go to the police. Yet you have women who are illiterate who have to deal with very technical paperwork. So what we do is we provide assistance, and then we partner with the Tots and Kids as part of their legal and psychosocial support, because what we do, we want to make sure that all the courts, Soweto as a township has seven magistrate courts, and this is just one township. And already those courts do not even cope. So we support through the program by also making sure that we lobby and advocate for psychosocial support, and also we ensure that the kids, because with the situation of women going to courts, it's not just about the woman going there to go and report abuse. She has to drag along her children, because who's going to look after them? Because we don't want children being abused while she's spending the whole day in court. One of the programs that we support as a Soweto CSI Council, we've gone out of our way to find toys and books, and we've called upon the Yorks Youth for Community Care and Support, because here you don't just get any young person, because you want to deal with young people who understand the pain of children who come from families where there's a lot of abuse, and most of the time they abuse themselves. They've gone through secondary abuse. So we come up with programs where we support the woman. The young lady you see here on the right, she was on a call with one of the counselors from Lifeline. We had put her on the phone, and for a moment she could switch off and focus on dealing with getting a bit of counseling and advice, telephonic counseling, and her child was being able to be positively focused on something else rather than having to listen to the problems. So these are small things that as Soweto CSI Council, that we do that actually make a difference. And we, as you can see here, I did speak about diapers, but I think in the container that we'll be bringing diapers this way, we will distribute them into Zimbabwe and other neighboring countries as well. I'm not going to say Uganda, as I always say, but for now we'll distribute them to Zimbabwe and neighboring countries. Is that we also need nappies. As I said, one of the challenges is if you are getting 450 rands for the child from government, you have to buy food, diapers, they cost about almost 200 rands a packet. So books, crayon, toys, coloring, those are type of campaigns that as the Soweto CSI Council, we approach business to help us with in order to help women and children on vulnerable communities. And what we do is we involve young people to volunteer as part of the putting youth to work. Okay, and you can see this. I don't want to talk about the nature of the nappy that the child had. We had to actually intervene and go and buy one from the nearest shop because that nappy looked like they'd been worn for, I don't know, for days, and it had not been changed. So when women are abused, it has a direct impact on children, and that's why we support the legal, the legal and the psychosocial process. That women, we have just going back on is to say that we have, or here it is, we have very good, well, we are establishing, it hasn't been easy, good relationship with the magistrate courts and the judicial system, because initially they felt that we are intervening or we were interfering. Initially they felt that when we come and we say to an elderly woman like this one here on the top left, okay, can we help you fill in the form? And they'll think, oh no, but they know what they're doing, but they don't, because most of the people have not even gone to school. So the whole alphabetization campaign that is going to be run, I think is by Nigeria or by, not by Nigeria, by the, not Nigeria, by the DRC, Eastern DRC, it's also necessary because a lot of the women, apartheid deprived a lot of people of education, particularly the older generation, yet they need to fill in forms and it's very confusing. And then the cases get kicked out. Though they did think we're interfering with a bit of relationship building and pushing and at times fighting with civil servants, we continued and ultimately they realized that we are not going away and they cannot get rid of us. So we continue to provide and assist with the legal and the social support in all the courts, not just the courts in the Soweto area. We do Alexandra, we do Randburg courts, and women, doesn't matter whether they're white, Indian, black, colored, they all face the same challenges. And that's what I meant that women unite. Okay, and then this is just a bit of statistics. We know that unfortunately South Africa, our modern South Africa, is the capital of rape in the world. And I say this with a lot of sadness because I deal with cases like this, too many, yeah. And what is happening here, we're just highlighting the fact that a lot of the cases, because of the technicality and the difficulty of the whole legal system, even just getting a protection order, it's even just going to court, it causes a lot of the cases firstly to be withdrawn. We can see here 68% of the cases never made it to court because the first thing they'll say evidence. No matter how much evidence I don't know what, that's why we need ICT, and we've spoken about this in a project elsewhere, that we need ways of recording, even if it's audio evidence, because what makes the cases to be kicked out is the lack of evidence. So we need to find ways of getting women and the elderly and girls to be able to record as part of the evidence what is happening, because the cases get kicked out, they never go to trial, they get withdrawn, and they do get withdrawn because if you can't read and write properly, but you are given a 20-page document to fill in, and then you are moved from pillar to post, you easily withdraw. You know, there are other factors as well. Okay, and then yeah, and what I'm putting here is that, you know, we need continuous help, and people need someone to talk to. That's why, as you can see here, it's also about, we provide the psychosocial support. We take counselors who are trained to talk, and also because the legal process is something, but the pain and the suffering is something else. So it's all about also providing that service. And we work with professionals, and we work with other organizations that give pro bono service, legal services. But unfortunately, based on what I got recently, I think they are overwhelmed with fed to them. And this is where hopefully there'll be an opportunity to find other networks that can help us to provide legal legal support, so that women's cases don't get kicked out unnecessarily. I love this picture here, bottom left, of one of the Youth for Community Care for Support, one of our coordinators, who knew that she had to take it upon herself to hold the baby of the woman while she was telling the story, a very sad story of what had happened to her, how she had been kicked out, etc. And she understood that, you know, as a woman or whatever she's going through, she actually needs a bit of support. So we support a process like this, but there were a lot of work. And I'm mentioning this because I'm highlighting this because if you look at the type of Supreme Courts, the judges, the courts that we have, infrastructurally, they're wonderful. In many ways, they're modern, even better than some of the Western worlds. I mean, it's a system that we inherited from the apartheid system that has good infrastructure, and we're building on that. But unfortunately, that has not transferred to the most vulnerable people who are living on the periphery. And this basically tells you that, I mean, who can afford a lawyer? Who can afford the time? How do you take, there are many factors that actually makes the system, the modern system, fail the people who need it the most. My favorite, you know, I meant before Andrew harassed me with the WhatsApp, I meant to write sports there, and I'm not sure if I did, it's covered there. One of my favorite activities in life is sports. I'm putting this picture up mainly because, you know, in South Africa, and you can see this is a recent picture, as recent as last year, this is what our Olympic team looks like. And if you look at the sports that we participate in as a country, they're very modern. Name it, whether it's fencing, we are there, whether name it, we are there. We are there, and it is excellent. Whether it's hockey, it is excellent for us as a country. So that's where the modern comes in. That's where the exposure comes in. But what it then means is there's a reality of a group, I'll say it's not even a group, a majority that gets left behind. So when you see this group that has been sponsored mainly by the South African government to go and represent South Africa in the Olympics, by just throwing my eyes that need glasses, I can see at the most 5 black people as an inclusive of Asians and colored people, 5, 6. So what it means is, as modern and as developed or developing we are, even in the sporting sector, we still have a lot of work to do in actually making sure that children like this one, Ashton, his name is Ashton, who come from, and I will mention his name and his background because it's not like you're going to meet him. This child is on ARVs. He's 4 years old. Already he's on ARVs because there was obviously a mother-to-child transmission in terms of HIV/AIDS. He's an excellent sporting, he loves soccer, he's excellent in it. He's an awesome child. And the type of home and environment that he comes from, it's that home where I don't even think that they care that he can kick the ball that well. And I don't even, at times I even think, because there's issues of alcohol abuse in that home, I don't even think that they remember that he is hanging a lot on his sister who's 8 and his cousin who's 10 years old. So though they have adults in that house, the children are literally raising themselves. And so environments like that, it means as modern, as an advanced, and as well doing and well positioned in various sports South Africa is. I wish we were in soccer. We'll get there one day, or the men's soccer, but the women's soccer we're doing well. It means that boys and children like this still continue not, there's no hope for them. And what has happened is in schools used to be a place where sports would be developed. With the emphasis of getting children to go to universities and academic performance, because we want to prepare people for the world, for the job environment, to counteract unemployment, all those things. We want to improve the economy. What has meant is that sports and recreation has actually been put on the sideline, particularly in schools in the township. You find that courts or spaces that are meant for sports, the only advantage is that spaces that were meant for sports are now being used for community gardens. The people will plant maize, they'll plant that, but they're not planting that and harvesting it for the poor children. They're doing it. They're doing it for themselves or to sell. But what that means is sports, and it still lives on the periphery. So we promote sport. I'm a coach. I personally coach hockey. I coach ice hockey, which is very popular in Canada. And Canada is one of the leading countries. I started that's where Gemma skaters come from. I started a team. I was the first person to start a team of inline skaters, inline skating in the township. And we still have those teams that are called Gemma Skaters, and that is why we still have Gemma Skaters Youth Development Program. Now we are adventuring a little bit to equestrian, which is horse riding and horse that. And yeah, there are opportunities. So as much as I promote what is popular in terms of sports, I also believe that kids from the townships, kids who are on the periphery must not be left out, because you don't need money to have talent. You just need support and nurturing. And that is why we're partnering with the Khoza Foundation. Everybody knows Orlando Pirates. The daughter of the Orlando Pirates owner has a foundation, and she with us. We'll be signing an MOU with them in order to promote and push the Thousand Kids Football Club, which is community-based. They are doing things in the schools, but we feel that not everything should be done only in the yards of the schools, and we'll be doing the same and supporting that we are doing that in the communities. Sorry, I've lost my, okay, I'll just do this. Okay. If this was a Mandela, everyone would have recognized him, and I would not have to say who it is. This is Tsietsi Mashinini. Tsietsi Mashinini is one of the young people, if not the main young person, who was the engineer and the visionary behind the June 16, 1976 march. And I'm saying I'm calling the march because it never started as an uprising. It started as a march of school children who were to meet at a school, Morris Isaacson, which unfortunately that school currently could use a lot of help. I don't know why it's being ignored. Tsietsi Mashinini put together a group of young people and said, we are going to march. We don't want to be taught in Afrikaans. We don't understand how Afrikaans is going to help us to position us beyond South Africa, because Afrikaans is a language that was only limited to South Africa. So if we get taught in Afrikaans, and this is in Soweto, by the way, Morris Isaacson is in Soweto. If we get taught in Afrikaans, that means we will not be able to think beyond the borders of South Africa, and that limits us as people. And that was quite visionary of him. And I think we sit here and we are grateful for that, because if he had not started that march and that communication or that dialogue, we would be in a country now where everything is digital, like we are now. We are doing webinars, we are doing Zooms, and wouldn't be able to communicate with the world, because others would be in Afrikaans, you know. So that was quite visionary. And in Soweto Society Council is one of those people. I will not talk about Mandela at this point, because there's a reason why I'm highlighting Tsietsi Mashinini, is because the spirit of Tsietsi Mashinini, I'm going to read there and say, but I'm going to replace students and say, people in the townships or people in the peripheries of South Africa today, they want to be recognized as human beings, because first they know, it says, because we don't know, it says, we know if we don't do what we think is right for them now, their children will suffer. See, I'm putting it in third person. I'm going to read again because it throws back the responsibility onto us as people sitting here and people who run organizations and do work in the communities or at whatever level, is that people need to be recognized as human beings first and foremost, and that is where Batupili starts. And then when you do recognize the work that you do, you know that it has to be done because it is right. It is right. It might be uncomfortable. It is, and it might cause you to lose friendships and relationships, but it is right for us to do it now because the future generations will suffer. So what we do now is not about the hunger now. It's not about the interventions that we do now, but what we do is it's all about the future generations. And that is why we continuously support the Soweto Society Council programs that work with youth and children. Okay, and that we are suffering. And it is said, he said this in 1976. I was that age. I was quite young, but I was alive. It's strange that this also still applies now, that the people in the periphery would still say the same, that the same way that we are suffering now. Whether people are suffering because of corruption or because of various factors or suffering because of historical reasons, this still applies now, and this should actually edge us forward. I'm going to rush through the next slide. And I raised Tsietsi Mashinini. As you can see, he was a school child. He was a school child then, or a young person who deserves more recognition that he's getting now. And then he was able to drive a whole movement that changed, and that started in Soweto. For those, okay, everybody should know, because the democracy of South Africa started in 1976. That is where the conversation of saying we want to be free from Afrikaans, that led to an uprising. It became an uprising because people got shot and people responded to being killed, and then they started attacking whatever it is that was a symbol of apartheid. So, but remember that it's only a June uprising, a June 16 uprising, because young people had to respond to being shot and to being killed. But then what happens, young people, school children in school uniforms, influenced where the country is now, and also the fact that we're able to have democracy and enjoy certain rights. But what is unfortunate is that, I'll go to the statistics. It wasn't, it's interesting that officially there was, the stats say that approximately 3.5 people of young people ages between 15 and 25, you shouldn't be working actually at 15, are not in any form of employment, education, and training. So in terms of education and training, that's quite relevant. But based on the calculations that we've done, I know Hendrik has also done, is that young people who are actually at the age where they should be having employment, a good 73, this actually amounts to about 73% of those young people being out of work. So we are talking about a whole nation of people who are unemployed, who have no any form of activity, and unfortunately, because of lack of land, lack of this, and lack of everything else, they're actually living very destitute and hopeless lives. So in a case where young people in our program for youth that we support as, in partnership with Gemma Skater's Youth Development Program, we are saying is that when young people are faced with poverty and unemployment nationally, what happens is, and this is a natural thing, you either fight or you flight. And naturally, as a young person, first you have all this energy in you that you are going to use it. So that is why when it says attack, I mean, as much as it worked in 76 in Soweto to start fighting against apartheid, it also works now. That is why you have leaders such as Julius Malema when they say, let's attack. Young people are the first ones to get up and attack. So the whole idea of fighting the system still applies now. And that is why people, and someone else will say, oh, but look at them, they're banning their own shopping malls. No, it's not their shopping malls. One of the biggest shopping malls, I think, on the continent, in the township, or the biggest shopping mall in the township is Maponya Mall. It's next to where our offices is or are in Klipspruit. That mall, it makes convenience, but it does not, it's convenient. People can reach the shops and people get mugged when they go to the ATM. I mean, there are various factors that happen there. But the point is that mall does not belong to the people in the community. And what we've seen that those infrastructures that are modern, that you find in townships, that are making townships to look like a place where everybody should come from different countries and live there, do not work for the people in the communities. Those people, they talk a language that is spoken in the first world. They talk about return on investment, savings. So when people destroy malls, I'm not justifying it. I was part of the group of people that fought against the destruction of the only mall that was not destroyed in July. Our team of young people and other communities in Soweto, we protected Maponya Mall, and we did all that. Other than just cleaning, we protected day and night to make sure that it doesn't get attacked. So it is self-sabotage in terms of the services. But if you don't have a sense of ownership and you don't feel that what belongs to the first world works for you in the third world, you will almost destroy it unnecessarily, and it is not justifiable. But that is a nature of youth. When there's a problem, or human beings, when there's a problem, you either fight, and we've been fighting, and we are not in, I think the spirit of fighting, we are linking it to change, that we need to fight corruption, we need to fight poverty, we need to fight. So as Soweto CSI Council, we support programs that fight the system positively. We fight hunger positively, we fight unemployment positively. We have a lot of campaigns. And the other one is that young people do is fight or flight, you know, and that is natural in human beings. But then how do young people don't run because they have nowhere to go? And you hear them being interviewed on television and say, oh yeah, okay, these people, they have somewhere to go. Tina, we have nowhere to go. This is all we know, because everything else was taken. So the townships, those small shacks, those small houses, that's all people know. So when people leave, they don't take their passports and get on the bus or get on the flight. What they do is they escape. That's why we have this huge group of young people who are now living on the streets. And what is said is that in Soweto, and the campaigns that we do with Sanka is to actually try and support them to encourage young people to have resilience instead of having more young people getting into drugs. And we have an increase of alcoholism. What is unfortunate, or I guess it's always been there, it's on an increase now, especially because young people will queue, or people who are needy will queue for 12 hours or more in order for them to get 350 from the government fund that came up during COVID to help people. And what is said is that majority of people would spend that money on alcohol. And what that does, alcohol, like all other drugs, I won't mention others that are popular on this platform, what they do, they increase people's levels of anxiety. People get depressed. So instead of people facing their situations with resilience and focus on solutions, people then start getting depressed. And what we've seen is there has been an increase of suicide amongst youth. And what we know is even in the world, even in South Africa has the second highest suicide rate of men. So resilience is low, and people then take their lives. So that is another way of running away from a situation where you don't see a way out, which is very sad. And that is why the psychosocial programs that we get involved in and support, and in everything we do, we partner with organizations as Lifeline, or anyone that brings in support from psychosocial perspective. And from this network, we've already identified other programs where we'll use I mean, someone will be sitting in New York to help healing programs that will help South Africa, as whether it's youth and women, and we're going to support that, or the elderly, even men, so that we actually counteract a system of self-sabotage and also a system of depression and suicide rates. Okay, I'm going to go through this quickly. My favorite people, there's a campaign that we support, is called TRIPS, and the whole idea is the children in the township. That's actually a nice ball, that would be nice. This is on the left, this is all they know, you know, and then we are saying that the modern world, and I will say that this is the type of spaces that my son and his friends play in, but he's in both worlds because he's with me in both worlds, is that this world, the issues of safety, this is a very protected space. And unfortunately, the children who live in this modern South Africa, extremely modern, we have very good entertaining spaces for children. The children who live in this modern South Africa, but on the periphery, some of them will never even ever get a chance to even see something as simple as this, a play area. And this will be the most that they'll see. And then without programs, so we support programs that where we're looking at getting children from the townships. We call it SEE because SEE stands for seeing, experiencing, and actually actively participating trips to help children to escape. Not everyone appreciates me calling the township concentration camps, but at times there's what we want them to be, and that's what we are working towards. But currently, if you look at them and what is happening even now in 2021, they are actually concentration camps, and now they're becoming more mental concentration camp rather than labor concentration camps. They were built for that in any case. So the whole idea is that those communities is to give, so as you can see, we work with communities beyond. So we look at Katlehong, it's in the east, they're not far from the airport, Tembisa. So all these townships, including Mirafong, and also what we then do is we looking at what is interesting, the provinces that are supposed to be that of wealth, the Northwest, Gauteng, Western Cape, that are supposed to be the Eden or the economic hubs or the mineral hubs of South Africa, are actually the ones who are carrying the most vulnerable groups of people, and also the women, the children, they are most impacted and don't have exposure to anything else. They don't have land to run to, they don't have trees to climb on, they don't have cows and chickens to look after. So this is what Dr. Carlos was saying yesterday, that the urban children tend to be extremely vulnerable because of lack of exposure. They live in flats, they live in shacks, and they're prone to abuse. I'll go through this. So the young people that we work with, who intervene with us as part of Soweto Suicide Council, they work in all these programs. And we partner. I'm going to start with the one at the bottom. They only mentioned the one at the bottom, is that we make sure that they also get involved in community work, and also we find opportunities for them to do programs such as Microsoft. So we find ways for them to travel. It's not easy to access whatever training opportunities, but that are normally outside the community. But what is ideal is for the opportunities to come into the community, so that, because transport is expensive and times it's not available. And some of the young people, some of them have children themselves, so it's not always easy for them to spend 4 hours traveling between programs. Okay. Okay. Only, underlining the word only 31%, 31.7% of Black children are raised with their biological fathers at home, and 51.3% of colored children. In South Africa, coloreds, we're talking about, colored people they're classified as a race themselves. It's people who come originally from what you call mixed races. So in normal circumstances, it shouldn't be like that, because Black is Black, Africa is Africa. But for the purpose of this, 51.3% of colored children are in the same situation. So as you can see, only 31%, and I even think it's a little bit exaggerated, but only 31% of Black children who are mostly the ones in those townships, and also the townships, we have a lot of colored people, or those vulnerable communities, have access to a biological parent. And also being a present, as a biological present, a father does not mean that you play an active role in your child, so in your child's life. So all the programs that we look at, we make sure that we include men. We find ways of including men, whether it's in the program of sports. There's a program called Men's Forum, which is MEN, but as from the Soweto's perspective, we're calling it a Men Forum, because we are saying that we're encouraging men as an individual to take a collective responsibility for what is happening in his life and in his surrounding. So in that way, everyone takes accountability as an individual to do something, because if it's a collective, 10 people tend to say, no, someone else will do it. So the question we raise that in the men's forum, as a man alone, what are you doing, the child? How present are you trying to be? Obviously, when people are economically active and life improves, it becomes easy for them to participate. But all the programs, including sports and everything else that we're doing, we're promoting the participation of men because we encourage positive participation. So what we are doing, this is part of this total system control, because the apartheid government main formula was to destroy the family system, was to move men from their families, men from their children. So with the programs that we're looking at and that we do, we actually aim to counteract this. It's not easy, but it is possible, because men out there are crying to do something positive. So we are, as an organization and other organizations, we want to make sure that we get men involved. And so far it's been positive, and it can only get better going forward. This is my last slide. There's another one that we took out because we felt that I wouldn't be able to read it. I just want to, the top picture on the left there, that came imagine this being in a school in Soweto or in a township. Okay, it says that it's unstable. I must quickly finish. It says, my dad plays with me. Dad can run. He can hit the ball. Look at him hit the ball too. My dad can catch the ball. I must run fast. So the whole idea is that, you know, we need to break the systematic approach of destroying societies by separating families. So to says I Council, currently we're focusing on breaking that system control and bringing families in order together for them to work towards the positive, whether it's through programs, agriculture, whatever it is that comes by. The whole idea is that communities need to work together in order to change and counteract the system of modernism that has actually called vulneralism in communities and amongst the poor. And we had to cut it here, but I hope that, and I really appreciate and thank everyone for listening. And this is what we do and continue to do as a Soweto CSI Council. I will stop. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Juliet. So this was really like detailed, and I think we hope that there will be quite a few questions coming up. The tail end of this, although we are running quite along right now, and there may be some people that were looks like there's a few less people on the call at this point, but possibly that's because people had other things to be doing.
Okay.
I myself will have only about 20 minutes or so before I need to get going as well. But certainly
Okay.
let's open up the floor to any additional discussions. I think these are really relevant in terms of other types of discussions we would like to have with the various within the various nodes of our network as well.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Lloyd. I've inserted our slide for the day. And Juliet, before you wrap up, could you please end where you began with an introduction of yourself and perhaps a slide that would allow the audience to be able to follow up with you, if that's available. Juliet?
Okay. Andrew, you want me to do that now?
Yes,
Okay.
please.
Let's just open
If at all
this.
possible.
Okay, let me go there. So I'm going to share. Okay.
And also make sure, if you have not yet, put the information about yourself into the chat.
Okay. Okay. Let me do. And then date one thing. Let me. So Andrew, you want me to go back to the first slide?
Yes, please, if you'd be so kind.
Oh, that was quite easy. All right, and I'll do the introduction.
Thanks. Well, in closing, if you could just review the information on the screen so people can follow up.
Okay, so should I do the introduction now?
Yes, please. To close
Okay.
your presentation, please end with your introduction, et cetera, and how to reach you, et cetera, please.
All right, thank you. Yes, I will. My name is Juliet Miabo. I'm the Executive Director of the Soweto CSI Council, and I work with other programs such as Tots and Kids and Gemma Youth Development Program and Imbogoto Program. I'm based in South Africa. I work with all vulnerable communities in the townships and also some of them in the urban areas and peri-urban and rural areas of South Africa. The presentation that I'm doing, or that I just did, is the modern vulnerables of South Africa, a grassroots perspective, keeping into perspective the other side of South Africa that does tend to get ignored. Yes, this is me. Yeah, I will include my details in the chat right away. Thank you.
Thank you so much. But for those people that are in the audience that can't see the chat,
okay,
if you could be so kind as to say it verbally. No
problem. The best way to get hold of me is the email Soweto CSI Council, Soweto CSI Council @gmail.com. And then my contacts are South Africa +2761 428 5338. South Africa 061 428 5338. People are most welcome to email, also to contact, preferably WhatsApp, to WhatsApp us or to WhatsApp me. And this is in relation to any program or any other partnership and support not just in Soweto, in South Africa, in totality, in all the townships. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you so much. And in the future, if you could edit this slide with that information and begin and end your presentation with it, then the audience will be able to better connect you. But thank you so very much. I'm going to insert the beginning slide, and then we can proceed from there.
I can still, if it's fine, I can still try and edit it, or it's too late now?
No, it's not too late. Go right ahead and we'll continue. And whenever it's available, you can then insert it. And when we edit it, we can then make that the beginning and the end slide.
Okay, we'll do that. Thank you.
Okay, so I think though, if there are anybody here that would like to as well ask any additional questions or have any additional comments on the presentation we just saw. If not, well, I think we'll just probably play that last slide once Juliet is finished with that, and then probably close up our day. It's been a long day again. Looks like we're closing on 2.5 hours, or not even that. Many hours on the call today. So I see Prophet and Yanu, you wanted to have a question.
And I won't take up much time today because I think I'll be here next week. Just because there are a lot of issues. Of course, I'm new to this system and have heard a lot. I do understand that it brings together some collaborations with organizations that can support each other, but it's really clear that there's a lot of huge systemic issues as well. So I'm just wondering, even like I'm in the US and Kansas, if I know or come in contact with something I'm still not really clear on how to assist in terms of getting resources if there's some here. And so in terms of the network, is it just like people who come on here that they're able to collaborate? But if most groups are having issues in terms of shortages, I mean, I'm kind of lost as to the best way to jump in and be of some significant, make some significant change.
So are you asking of myself or
Well, yeah, just sort of what your goal is in terms of the overall project and bringing resources to such a huge need. And then also even something as simple as I've been trying to do some research on just plain old mailing. If I have something sitting here that I need to get, right to any place there, what, I mean, do you have knowledge of like how to, and I can talk to you about it on the WhatsApp. I just, as I'm sitting here, I'm thinking there may be some simple things, there may be some larger things, but just the logistics from other countries. And I'm getting now, this is not a global network. It's about getting resources to Africa. Is that correct?
Well, no, the Global Unity Network is actually intended to set up the education and training networks. Specifically, as if you had seen the beginning of the presentation, the opening presentation. So we are trying to set up the infrastructure for learning in terms of helping to address multiple sustainable development issues simultaneously through the what we call climate smart food solutions and infrastructure solutions in local communities. So we are trying to essentially establish the learning infrastructure, so virtual combined with the hands-on training, education and training centers. So this platform can be used for multiple activities as well once it's been established on the virtual network, where we can bring everybody together. But it's not necessarily being set up to facilitate any specific transfer of materials or otherwise.
Well, if I may, Lloyd, that's accurate and not quite completely accurate, because even though today's event is intended to focus, as we say, on the Indigenous Global Network, the parent or Andrew Networks or AHIABGA-TV, we are intending to extract presentations that we produce here for a global audience. And yes, in fact, it is intended to be a global resource where we can connect together those with needs with those with resources. That will be a separate activity that we'll be discussing on Fridays with the PARXTC Export Trading Company. As a corporation that's handling all of the facilitation, there are various brands that include not just the Andrew Networks, but also AHIABGA-TV. So the intent is for us to provide a broadcast platform where we can reach a global audience and then have the audience worldwide to access us, and we can then participate to promote the Decade to Deliver solutions, or the Decade to Deliver on the Sustainable Development Goals. That's the ultimate project. Specifically right now, there is a 2021 through 2023 United Nations Global Compact strategy that involves the local networks and an Africa-specific strategy. So I am intending for all of the activities that we do here that are relevant to be included in that global cooperative. So that's a long answer to your question, Prophet.
Yes, and I won't hold up all the time, because what I would really like to see, like I said, what I see here is what, of course, I see around the world. There's a systemic problem, but how does one individual, they may not have a lot of resources, but they have something that they can bring to help something, but I'm not really clear how to get that something where, or who to tell what to send what to. And so I don't know where that exists in terms of solutions. So that's what I'm looking at, even if it's just diapers. Now, of course, back in the day, in Mississippi, we had cloth diapers. We didn't do paper, so you just had to rinse them out in the toilet, actually. And I know that the toilet is an issue there, but just knowing what the real issues are, we didn't do the because they were too expensive. And that's just one of the small things, but being able to send, whether it's food, clothes, money, seeds, or whatever, solutions, where to send them, how to get them there. United States has a lot of barriers, because I tried to send something I mentioned to UK, and it cost me $30 to send a little small thing. So who has a company that gets a better rate in shipping that people can work with to get stuff overseas? So just some of those, how to bridge some of these gaps to get what's being tossed away here to some place that can use them. And so that was my question. How do we get the help out there? So thank you so much, Prince Andrew.
Well, and again, in a partial answer to your question, for an example, the Shola Agbula Goodwill Ambassador Foundation, based in Nigeria, excuse me, was able to convey over $50 million worth of supplies to Africa and Kenya from 2013 through 2020 through the auspices of Ambassador Shola, directly from the government and corporations in Canada to those countries. He has now expanded his operations to here in the United States, and I am one of the USA representatives. So on a global scale, for big issues, that's something we can tackle. But on a more localized scale, the intent for us is to take advantage of the existing infrastructure. That's why we're suggesting that the United Nations Global Compact, they have existing what they call local networks. So we have a USA local network, a profit. There is a local network in South Africa, Nigeria, many of the countries. So the ultimate intent is to connect the dots together that already exist and then find ways to streamline that, both from a humanitarian standpoint and also from the standpoint of forcing those corporations who have made these commitments to get these things done to come through our grassroots network to assist in getting it done. Even though we end up doing the work they claim they are supposed to be doing, the ultimate intent is to get the work done. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Well, keep me posted on ways to get things from here to there, because it was $70 just to track a one little item. So help me. Yes, so email me, keep me posted, because I'm interested in that kind of solution. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, what I wanted to sort of add to that this is the reason we want to bring everybody together on this virtual collaborative network, so we can actually have these discussions. So at some point, let's say, Prophet Cox, you want to reach out to all the members, all the business members of the network, and say, okay, I need to, we have let's say a crate full of nappies. We need to get it to this and this place. And is there anybody that can help us? And we need the cheapest rate. And so that can be broadcast over the network once it's been established, and people can respond to that, just like an RFP in any business, where you can go out and find those solution providers.
And maybe like on WhatsApp or whatever, this is just for the presenters, if there's a clear list, and I think that Juliet did an excellent job today, a clear list of what is needed. So if I have a checklist, I can know, okay, I have some nappies, or I have some pads, or something, then I have that. I may not have everything, but I if it's on the list, but I'm not, because I hear all the presentations, knowing what is actually the individual list of what you need. And we know cash is always good, but if you need seeds, if you need this, if you need that there may be people across the globe that can help with that and get that out there. So thank you so much.
Actually, this is a good concept, actually, in terms of, we've had this discussion recently with one of our members here in Toronto about the need to even have let's say a more sophisticated, what we call the virtual collaborative network, that could actually have more functions. So that could be one of the functions, is sort of a trading space that would allow people to say, here's the needs of a community, or here's the needs of a business, and there's a space where people can respond to these.
And Gabriella has her hand raised, Lloyd.
Yeah, one last thing, though, just a little suggestion. This is down the line for all of you techie folks. The church I belong to in Kansas City, Missouri, they had to put something together. So when people came for money for light bill or water bill or whatever, they had a system. So if my church gave $500 for rent, they didn't also send $500 to the same cause, that they were able to have a system so they knew where everything went. So that's, I know that's a check issue. So that if we're sending stuff, because every country needs something. So just down the line. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Well,
Thank you.
before we get to Gabriella, let me also say that, for example, each of the countries in Africa, they have what's called, excuse me, a diaspora commission. And that commission is supposed to connect together people from that country who are traveling outside the country back to home. There are billions of dollars being spent right now, of course, on humanitarian aid. However, as you know, there are more billions that are lost through illicit trade, but the remittances coming from the African people outside the continent back home is a very real flow. So what we're suggesting, Prophet, is that we in this group and others connect together the dots that already exist so that we can have a transparent way to assist this on just not a local basis, but on a global basis. But as Lloyd says, localizing it to be specific to those people that are actively involved with us and that we can become actively involved with. Gabriella, your hand is up. I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, thank you so much, the organizers of the call, and Madam Juliet from South Africa. I appreciate you for that great presentation. You've opened our eyes, especially me. Like, we knew South Africa was among the G20 countries, like the level of poverty and struggles down there, they cannot be as what we've seen today in your presentation. And it has been a holistic presentation. We've learned a lot, and we really believe that it's not that South Africa, all is well there. We have also a level of vulnerability, both children, the women, the elderly. So my question goes to you about the elderly, especially where you mentioned that there is a percentage of social assistance grant for empowerment. I think here in Uganda we call it SAGE, the social assistance grant for empowerment. That's SAGE. And when you are doing your presentation, you talked about a percentage that you give to the elderly per month in South Africa. And when you are presenting, you were giving us there are two types of people in South Africa. We have the other ones who are the most able, and we have the other side who are more vulnerable. So this percentage, as you're doing your presentation, does it go to all the older persons in South Africa, even them that come from the white society, or you call them the Asian society or the white society, or its entire country, the elderly that are given that portion, that percentage of money per month? And at what age? Because here in Uganda, it used to be 60 years and above, but it was slotted down to 80 years. And you can see with statistics, there are very few older persons that reach 80 years at the moment, because the lifespan has been reduced, I think, with nature. So my question is, from what age in South Africa is this percentage of money given to the elderly? Then number two, does it cater for the entire South Africa, both the other community of the Blacks and the other community of the whites? And then number three, do you make a follow-up? Because here, after the government giving out that money to the 80 years and above, if they are the CSOs like Jaffoa, like we make a follow-up, how many have gotten the money, how many are missing, and what are we supposed to do? So what do you do for such cases? I believe you might be facing a similar case down there. What do you do for those type of the elderly persons who cannot access, who cannot see, who cannot sign? And then number four, to finish my question, the same elderly persons, because that's where my heart beats a lot. The same older persons, do you also monitor after getting this money? Do you also monitor as an organization Do you also monitor what do they use the money for? I heard in your presentation that you can they buy cabbage or food, and you're sure that they are going to feed the cabbage to the kids. But here, like what Jafua does, we ensure that they are economically empowered. So we encourage them to buy like a goat or a cow, whereby they'll be involved in it, and they will grow it up, and they this cow, they get the milk, they sell the milk, or they drink it for nutrition, something like that. So how do you monitor those monies for those older persons? Otherwise, thank you so much. And actually the SAGE, the social assistance grant for empowerment here in Uganda is $7 per month. And this money is actually, these older persons, they get this money after like 2 months or 3 months. That's when they are paid that $7, which actually is not enough. That's the reason why even the CSOs like Jafua, we get in and get involved in that. Looking back to the motto of Unity Net African Diaspora or Global Unity Network, we should not leave anyone behind. If you get this person is getting $7 per after 2 months, after 60 days, for sure as CSOs, we have to be involved and to make sure that we are moving together in the same pace. Otherwise, that's all. Thank you, Mr. Lloyd, for giving me the chance to ask my question. And back to you, Madam Juliet. And that's all. Hope I've been audible enough. Thank you.
Well, thank you, but also I know you've asked your questions, but for purposes of documentation, if you could type those into the chat so that we can refer back to it, I would certainly appreciate that. And the same is true for everyone here. Make sure you type your contact information in the chat, as well as any questions you may have or comments. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
You got muted.
Okay, sorry. I say I will continue, and I will have to answer quickly because my colleague Malika made a speech as well. But on the first question, our age, firstly, I want to say it's always saddened me when you told us that the age for receiving assistance from government for the elderly, it's 80 years old. That is as good as them not providing it, the government of Uganda. That's a very sad situation. And we're hoping someone can intervene in that situation. I don't know who would can influence that decision. And then our age in South Africa is the age of 60. So that's quite early. And what it then does is, it's positive, but also it's a problem because what you find a lot of unemployed people who are still able to work, who literally wait until they get the age of 60 and celebrate when they do get that money. So because for them, 2,000 rands is a lot of money that they would never have had in their lives. So 60 is young. And what we do on our programs, the Bokuku programs, we work with elderly from the ages of 65. So we have our own classification because what we do is the others who are already receiving pension does not necessarily mean they're not able. So our programs, we start with the elderly from 65. And if you look at, the logo for Abokuku, we say we're focusing on the elderly, we call them Bokuku, who care. So we also include the criteria that because there's shortage in terms of what can be given out and the help that can be given, we'll focus on those elderly that are already caring and supporting families or other community members or children. So we do set a criteria. But in terms of the government gives out the pension to the elderly to everybody. Equality is important. So the grant is given, whether it's black, white, it doesn't matter. It's available to you when you are at that age. But what happens is a lot of the people who come from backgrounds where they don't need it, they don't apply for it because you have to go and submit and apply. It's not automatic. So you do find that there are maybe people who are more affluent who don't apply for it. But it's cut across, it's available for everyone. And then in terms of follow-up, The only thing that we do as an organization, and that is why we have the program of the legal and support, we wait, actually, we actually don't wait. We look at, because it's their money that they receive. So they have control of how they use it. But what we do is we only come in and intervene in cases where we've been made aware of cases of abuse or robbery. So we have Yorks and other people as an organization who keep an eye out for elderly who get economically abused or who get robbed. And in that case, what we do, we intervene, we involve the social workers. And in terms of how they use it is totally up to them. But what we do is we encourage a program where we ask, because of the shops that are available that are owned mainly by people from Pakistan, we encourage the elderly. What they do is they bake bread and they sell it. They bake scones, they bake fat cakes, and others, what they do, they make food that other people can buy. So we encourage that that they actually turn, and we don't even have to encourage them. A lot of them do that because that money, it might be a little bit more compared to Uganda, but most of them, for their economic situation, it's not enough. But also we encourage them to be more entrepreneurial. So they cannot necessarily, maybe in the rural areas, that is why I've shared this before, that there's been an increase, or there's an increase of women being involved in agriculture. One of the things that the elderly, what they do is they take that money and then they try and farm, where they farm in the school. So in the rural areas, they do use it for things like that, agriculture and other things. But in urban areas, they do things such as selling sweets, or they sell at school, or they bake, or whatever it is, to try and generate some income. Yes, but I think that covers it. That covers it. And I do agree with you, Malika. That is why in some of the projects we're saying in the areas of the elderly, we have to collaborate and actually see, because whatever's an elderly is an elderly, and there has to be ways of synergizing and supporting each other. But what is one of the biggest problems about the elderly that they're facing is the abuse, and the abuse also is linked to that money that the government is giving to them to survive. You have those people who are doing drugs, those young people who are robbing them, raping them, stealing from them, breaking into their houses, to a point where the one elderly in a court, in the Protea court, said to me, sure, you know, this money is supposed to help me, but whenever it's month end, I get very worried because I know I'm going to get attacked. And it's actually become more of a burden to me than a blessing, because of the abuse that I go through just for my grandchild, for him to get the money on the hands, not to get his hands on the money. So yeah, that is a situation. And yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much. Well understood. I think we shall continue the discussions after the call.
So thank you all for coming on the IGU Summit Thursday events for March 17th. We have, this is again, week 41. This is Lloyd Halferty. I think at this point in time, we will have to close out. I actually have to get going myself in about 2 or 3 minutes as well. Thank you, Andrew, for hosting us one more time. We will be online again on Monday for our first Tea Diplomacy initiative event as well. That is published again, put into the chat. I will as well be promoting that throughout the weekend as we move forward toward creating a new regular event for our Global Unity Network.
Lloyd, could you bring that slide back up to your screen so we can share it, please?
Okay, hold on just a second here.
Sure, no problem. In the meantime, I just have our standard there. Also, Lloyd, to let you know in the future, I'll be including the logos for AHIABGA-TV. We do plan to go live with our events in the next few weeks. So technically, AHIABGA-TV is going to be our brand that we'll be using.
Okay, let me just, I'm going to share the screen here. Share the screen. Share So this is the last slide with all of our logos and that link as well. So it is an Eventbrite page. You will find descriptions for every one of these organizations on that Eventbrite page, as well as an agenda for the event itself.
Great.
And further descriptions of the event.
Great. Any closing thoughts before we end? I'll open it up for the audience. If not, we're going to move to close as we speak.
Mm-hmm.
If I may, I just want to thank Andrew, to thank everyone here for participating in the discussion and allowing me to do the presentation. And I find it an honor to be able to talk about where we are, and I find that this platform gives us an opportunity to come closer and as a world to find solution to some of the problems and the challenges, but also to celebrate the work that is being done. Though that was not my emphasis today, but there's a lot to celebrate, and that will be discussed in the other meeting that's taking place on the 21st. And thank you, Lloyd, thank you, Andrew, and everyone else that's participating.
Thank you, Juliet, and thank you again, everybody that was participating today. And we will see you next week.
Yes, see you next week.
Okay.
Andrew, can you give me a minute to add my information on the chat? Yes.
Take your time.
All right, thank you. I'm using someone's gadget I'm not used to, someone else's. Thank you.
No worries.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you all for being here.
Thank you. Take care, sis.
Take care too. Bye.
Thank you, Prophet. Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Excellent presentation. Thank you. Blessings to all.
Yeah, blessings to you, Prophet. Sure. So Andrew, I just found that the letter Y on this this laptop doesn't work. So let me find another way.
We'll work it out.
And it so happens myself. So and let me work this out.
Like my laptop, the letter Z and X doesn't work very well. On my own laptop, the keyboard X and Z don't work very well. I have to sometimes press very hard to get it to work.
No, happens that you need. Let me. Prince Andrew, is it done recording?
You know what? I was just thinking about that. I'm still recording. We're going to edit out all these extra stuff, but would you like me to stop recording before you say something, or keep it?
No secrets. No, just so that I don't laugh at Professor Lloyd's laptop too loudly.
Well, we're done. I am going to stop recording.
I wanted to say so much for a G20 country. How can your laptop have problems? At least I have an excuse.
I have a really old laptop, actually.
You're not getting any of our laptops.
Problems.
Well, when we get donations, please don't send any to Canada, Prophet Cox, please.
Well, that's the problem that we have, because even though Canada is a G7 country and the United States is a G7 country, we have pockets of poverty here that are at least as extreme as those in South Africa and around the world. So that's why we're intending to work from the bottom up to leave no one behind.
Yes.
Yeah, actually,
I'm saying it as a joke, because after Professor Lloyd spoke about the partnership between India and Canada, we've been referred to as G20 more than being referred to as South Africa. So I'm just throwing it back to him as well. We're not going to carry the burden alone. You know?
Not only are there pockets of poverty, there are also pockets of wealth. And it happens that one of those pockets of wealth happens to be in South Africa as well.
Yes, no, definitely. And there's plenty of them in the mining sector. I mean, because of time, I mean, you know, there's a lot of wealth here. But as we say, how do we, yeah, it's all
So
about.
The point is to partner with those UN Global Compact members, and I'm sure there are. I've looked at it. There are many members in South Africa as well.
Well, that's exactly why we're talking about the United Nations Global Compact. Just to say that, for example, there are right now over 13,000 major corporations, but since the United Nations Global Compact started, over 15,000 have been delisted because they didn't follow up with their claims or with their responsibilities. So part of our task is to join with the United Nations Global Compact now. Their intent is to, for the next 18 months, involve the top 100 largest companies in each country, but increase the number of small and medium enterprise organizations to connect those dots. But they've left out the civil society, which has been the heart of the whole idea. So Juliet and others, our task is to make sure we get for our constituents all the benefits that are currently available, but they don't know about. So our job is to educate ourselves about the solutions and then become the examples ourselves of what we want to get others involved with. So we have to take advantage of these opportunities ourselves and not be ashamed to be the ones that are uplifted, because that's the only way we can show our children that they can follow what we are doing and not just what we're talking about.
Exactly. I remember we had this discussion and I fully agree with you. And it also helped that we had that discussion because it then actually said one mustn't be shy about highlighting those issues. Because initially when we had spoken with Professor Lloyd, we were going to focus on other things, but I realized, no, it is necessary to highlight those issues and actually match the needs to the resources that are there, you know, and that's not hard. And not just in South Africa. And as you saw in a lot of our programs, we need to also work with other African countries that are part of our unit to say, let's work on this. Malika was basically saying that don't leave Uganda behind, don't leave Zimbabwe behind, we don't leave Malawi behind. And also the fact that South Africa is in a fortunate state of housing so many African countries. I don't think there's any country that's not represented in South Africa in terms of the diaspora. Maybe we must look at how we can even work with the people who are already here to partner with us. But that's why we've got our African Diaspora Network. So thank you.
In that regard, I'm actually here in Los Angeles because in the United States, Los Angeles is much like the Mediterranean area, where you have Africa, Europe, and Asia coming together. But South Africa is or Johannesburg, I think, is probably much more like what's happening here in Los Angeles. So the idea is, because we have people here from all these other parts of the world, by connecting those together here that have those contacts, we can affect change not here, but in those countries as well, and connect those dots. So that is the ultimate intent. And so each of you will be invited to pull together your own profile. We'll be using this StreamYard platform for these interviews. So each of us needs to think about what brand we're going to present to the world, so that in the future, as we move forward, we can pull each other along.
Yes.
That's great. And Andrew, at some point talk more about these use of money that goes to Africa but doesn't quite get there, and how there's just so many things that are beneficial. Like you said, we need to connect the dots and start having them do what they need to do. So anyway, but thank you all so much. It's my understanding too, though, Juliet, is that the South Africa is a part of BRICS, right? I don't know if they still are. It has no relevance maybe to this, but it just popped in my head. That
it's another network. It's another global network that we should tap into. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And
No,
just to be specific, BRICS is Brazil, Russia, India, and South
India.
Africa.
China and South
BRICS.
Africa, yeah.
And
Yes.
China. I
China,
believe.
yes.
China, yes.
No, it is a network. I think just currently they're focusing on this dilemma of, because if Russia is involved in that war, so that I think currently they're just caught up in that mess, what it means. Do they support Russia as part of BRICS? But it's an opportunity while Ukraine is going through what it's going through, but it is an opportunity that we once tried to tap on. So Professor Lloyd and Andrew, if there is a way, that'd be great.
We may need a representative for the BRICS within AHIABGA.
We need a representative for every of the organizations individually and collectively. So the short answer is yes. But Lloyd, you already know one who is Jenny Young from China that could fulfill that role. And Alexander Sokolinsky could fulfill the role for Russia. But yeah, we have those access to potential members, but it's our task to provide a guideline for us all to work from. That's the task.
Yes, because it's my understanding that group was put together as a protection for certain countries. And so they have a way to protect, in terms of finance and all kinds of things. It's just a matter of working in a way. And if South Africa is, it's only 4 of those countries, and South Africa should benefit from the fact that they joined that collaborative somehow. I don't know, but you guys know more about that. I just kind of know the
Anyway,
initial.
I need to get going. I'm going to be late if I don't.
Hi, Lloyd. Thank you.
We're gonna miss you. Where are you going? So you end the call now.
Yeah.
Lloyd, you're always smiling. If you didn't smile so much,
Easy. This is monopoly. So when you leave with the resources, Professor Lloyd.
Just a moment. I'm controlling the call, so Lloyd can go. We'll still be here.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. I'm leaving, but I'll see you all next time.
All right. Thank you,
Lloyd.
See you soon. I thought you're a poet, by the way, Professor Lloyd.
And I think we have Princess Seppi with us as well. I saw her in the waiting room. My beloved daughter from South Africa, and since we're here talking, everyone of course is welcome to leave, but since we're here, Princess Seppi, can you unmute yourself? Are you available to tell us hello?
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I am available just on audio. Thank you so much for being here, and greetings to everyone. And where is Brother Lloyd going?
Well, he's going away.
He's going away. When the royals walk in the house, he leaves. Tell him when the royals walk in the house.
No one is supposed to leave. Yeah.
Nobody's supposed to leave. That is the protocol. That is the protocol.
Yep. Yeah, no, we'll give lessons on that. How are you, Princess?
I'm doing very well, and thank you so much, Memiabo. Thank you. I believe you've been holding the fort for us. I appreciate the work that you are doing, and we are still going to be speaking, you and I, in the near future.
All right, thank you. And I know through Prince Andrew that you are there, supporting, even if we haven't spoken much. And I really appreciate you being there. And did you sit through the presentation?
No, I've just come in now because of the other webinars that I was on. However, I have been following, I know, and Prince Andrew is mine that day, by the way. And he's a Motlokwa in the USA. Did you know that?
Yeah. He did say that, and we're discussing that day with Professor Lloyd, whether you are the prince, Zulu princess, and I said Tepi Zulu doesn't sound right.
No.
Can you please clarify that? Because I even researched for him, and I gave him a clip of the Batlokwa people, and I said, no, Princess Tepi cannot be Zulu.
Okay, I No, not Zulu. I am from the Royal Batlokwa. We are now heading to Mount Fletcher tomorrow. We have our annual pilgrimage this Saturday. Batlokwa Mantatisi Me Juliet. You remember Queen Mantatisi, the warrior? Well, I come from Engot in KZN. Do you know Basutu? You call us Basutu. We are Batlokwa in KZN.
Yes. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. So does it clarify things now? Does it clarify things?
It was clear with me. The person who needs clarity is the one who's left the room.
So
thank you.
we will take him through the protocol. But he's a sweet and he's a family to us. That they knows us about Batlokwa. It just that what is confusing to them is I come from KZN.
Yes.
So now when they look at KZN, they think of the Zulu kingdom. Yet we are there, and when you say Queen Mantatisi, that's where you will learn more about us. But yes, I'm still on the ground. We will speak. You've got my numbers.
Okay, I will get them from Prince Andrew. Yes, we will speak. And with your permission, I'm working on slowly adopting Prophet Cox. I don't know what we're going to do to get her to have a South African citizenship. I hope she's listening.
I absolutely am.
Okay.
I think I was with you with Dr. Ada yesterday, wasn't it, Professor Cox?
What was it yesterday?
Were you on the webinar with Dr. Ada yesterday?
No.
No, okay. No, my apologies. But however, we will be able to get to here. If Violet has adopted you, it is done. That which we declare on earth, it is already declared in heaven. So therefore it is done.
It is done. And that's one of the reasons why we need to adopt it, because Nali and I, we speak the same language spiritually. And I didn't touch on those things. There are a lot of psychosocial wellness, healing programs that I always had visions about doing. And I know Wuti will be able to do with her, with her experience.
And please include my son. He was born with special needs, but he's 35 now, and he is a real worker. He will work, and he does not complain. He complains if I say something, but anybody else, he will work until he collapses. So if you include him, you can get a lot done.
Yeah.
Well, invite him to our family.
Yes. Princess Seppi, when there's something happening not too far, please invite me, so that I can also maybe come through.
Perfect. So when I'm coming back on Monday, and then we can have a quick call. You are here in Soweto, isn't it?
No. I'm in Blackgowrie.
Oh yeah, Blackgowrie.
I'm always in Soweto. I'm always in Soweto in the townships, but I live 4 minutes away from Sandton, so you can see the world I live in. I live in the first, but I work in the third. And I come from the third.
Yeah, we can have a quick tea. I'm in Germiston, which is not far from Eastgate. Nice. Eastgate is central. Okay. So we can have a quick tea next week, and then we share more what we're doing, so that when we come to the family, we are a real family. It shouldn't be that we will behave like people that are in the US.
I know, and we have to rely on Prince Andrew to link us. No, that's wonderful. And there's a wonderful mall. Another thing that you're not aware of, Andrew and Professor Cox, in South Africa, when there would be a normal shopping center or a mall, as soon as a lot of Black people start going to it, the rich build another one that's very far that you can't really reach unless you have a car. So there's another mall in the, there's, I don't know what it's called. It's quite nice, quite fancy. It's not far from Eastgate.
Yeah, Bedford View.
Yes, Bedford Center, isn't it?
Yes, and that's where we usually meet. You are correct. Where no taxis can get.
That's and I was saying, hey, they're going to run until they fall in the sea. Mari, it's okay. We can meet there.